Welcome back to this conversation with Myles Treanor, a modern mystic who's bringing a new spiritual method for those of us who want to wake up. If you haven't heard part 1, I recommend you go back and listen to that before you dive into this. Be sure to stick around till the end of the episode where Myles guides us in his soul alignment method to experience ourselves as the light that is the source of this incredible universe that we live in. But for now, let's hear more of this astonishing story. I'll start with a summary of that. What I heard you say is that there's these 5 phases, right? Phase 1 is really starting to reconnect and understand your true nature as the awareness that is greater than just this human experience. And once you have your sense of yourself as that bigger piece, you start to realize that in order to stay connected to that state and stay aware of your true nature, there are certain wounds and traumas and conditioning that is pulling you out. Right? And then going through a process then of phase 2 of starting to unlearn that. Then phase 3, as you start to get into this relationship with your higher self and also start unlearning your traumas, you notice that there are certain things that really light you up in the world, that intuitively feel right for you. And they're different from what lights other people up. And so you start to get in touch with this intuitive sense of knowing. And what you're calling that is your soul's purpose. And then this 4th phase of conscious relating is where you start to try and embody that in life. And things will have to change. How you relate to people will have to change. And seeing that the way that people interact with you is a mirror back to you of what you need to now let go of. And then phase 5 is stepping further into that and starting to, as that higher self who's more embodied, consciously create community and go into community and bring the gifts that you've learned through uncovering things that have been traumatic for you or learning what really resonates with you. Would that be a fair summary of 5 stages?
Yes, that's a beautiful summary, Cian.
How did you end up in this space uncovering these? What sort of experiences led you to be sitting here today talking about these 5 phases?
So physical health conditions were really the catalyst for this. So as a teenager, going through, I cracked my skull in 3 places. I broke my sternum, broke my tailbone, broke many things, other things than that. And going through so many accidents as a teenager, it was kind of like, it was almost like cracking me open, to put it in a humorous way. But I remember every time I'd get an injury, I would sit in my room and I'd start to write. I would just write and journal a lot of deep questions. Even as a 13-year-old, I'd be like, God, why did this happen to me? Why are you doing this to me? I would say a lot of things like this. Like, what are you trying to do? Like, why? What's the point of this? And ask questions like this. And this would be my thought process for my whole teenage life. And then when I got 19, I was playing football a lot. And I was really obsessed with football and trying to be the best footballer I can be and trying to be something through football, let's say. And then all of a sudden, I just started having a really difficult time with going to digest food and also going to the bathroom. And then within a few days, I remember passing blood in the bathroom. And then all of a sudden, I remember I really couldn't go to the bathroom. It was really difficult to actually digest, and there was a lot of inflammation in my stomach. And then all of a sudden, it was like I couldn't even eat anything other than fruits, something very light. And then I started to get a little bit worried by this, and then I went to the doctor, and I was diagnosed with a medium grade rectal prolapse, which is basically the structure of my colon it lost its structure and got inflamed and pushed down onto the left side of my abdominals, started to get inflamed. And so there's internal bleeding of my digestive system. And then I was diagnosed also with colitis. So the doctor was like, well, this usually only happens to old people, this prolapse, and we don't really have a surgery for this. There's no real solution for it, but if it gets serious, we can cut off the bottom part of your colon. But other than that, we don't really have a solution. There's no real surgery. And because of this, I was having a lot of pressure in my bladder and having a lot of pressure in my genital area. So I was having like different types of conditions appear in there, all on and off. And there was lots of pressure all around the organs in that area. And so it was a structural problem. And so in the medical model, they don't have surgeries for some of these things. And then if you don't have a surgery, you don't have a drug, because a structural problem is usually solved with a surgery. Because there's no surgery, in the medical model, they call that medically incurable. It's incurable. And so I was like, wow, it's incurable. And then I start to look, surely not. Like, and I was like, maybe it's something to do with food or something else. Maybe I can find another way. And trying to search everything, going to different specialists, going to urologists and neurologists and different specialists in Ireland, England, and realizing the answer is always the same. It's like, there's no surgery for this. And I'm researching like all day on different possible solutions. So finding nothing. And then about 6 months of that, 6 months of just constantly searching. And then I realized that maybe it's not, there's nothing here. Maybe it's not discovered yet, the solution. And I'm really starting to go, what can I do now? And then the only thing that was left in my mind was like, well, there is this thing called mind-body healing. There is this fluffy idea out there that some people talk about, mind-body healing, whatever that is. I'm like, that's the only hope I have. It's like, oh my God, that's it. If I don't have this, then nothing's going to work. I'm like, there's no point living. So I have to find a solution here. So I go book into psychotherapists and hypnotherapy and NLP and all these different things I found on the internet and yoga and all this stuff, and nothing made a difference. None of it worked. And I remember going home from I think it was a hypnotherapy, and I was like, this is all bullshit. I was like, none of this works. It's yoga stuff. What is this all nonsense for? It doesn't. I said, I don't care what it is. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and that's it. I just want what works. I don't care. So it was like, if it's not working, and I was like, then it really hit me. I was like, wow, I actually don't know if it's any point living anymore. Actually, what's the point of this? Like, I'm 19 years old. At this stage, I was like, I might never have a child. I might never have a relationship. I might never even make love with a woman. I might not even be able to digest food. Like, I have so many things ahead of me now. And I was like, I actually just felt totally apathetic. I was like, I actually don't even want to live now. That would just hit me like this. And I was like, I don't want to live. And then the next thought became, oh, when am I going to leave? I was like, I might actually just go out of this experience. And so as I was really contemplating that for a few days, I remember one morning I was like, I'm just going to do that today. And I remember being in my room and I was like, planning that, and then all of a sudden I remember walking by my bed and I fell onto my bed. It just like fell, like almost like I got dizzy and just fell. I went back onto my bed and I just had an experience. It was like I just see a vision of my mother. She put her hand out and she brings me into her childhood, and she starts to show me what's happening to her as a child. She starts to show me what's hurting her, where she feels pain, where in her body it's stored, what it's caused by. And then her mother comes and brings me into her childhood and shows me the same. And then her mother comes and brings me into her childhood and shows me these visions of like the church, the Catholic Church, and start to show me priests and start to show me this sexual abuse starting to happen. And it's almost like I'm re-experiencing this little girl going through a sexual abuse. And I'm like experiencing it as me, literally. And I'm experiencing all this pain around the society at the time, and where there's no voice for this woman, and there's no all this trauma stored in her nervous system. It's like it's just passing down generation to generation, and each generation is like having a similar external experience to reflect what they're holding. It's almost like it's reaffirming itself, and it's like I'm like, wow, is this memory? Is this like a programs are just passed down generation to generation? And then all of a sudden, I see this little boy, and he grows up, and all of a sudden, he's 14, 15, he's going socializing, and he starts to meet women, and all of a sudden, he starts to get very triggered, starts to have a lot of things come up inside his body. And he starts to like go into spasms and all sorts of things in his physical body when he starts to realize that, well, the whole topic of sexuality is super difficult. And then as he's 18, 19, really wanting to connect with a woman, it's like he just freezes in his body. All these information starts to come. All these symptoms start to come to the surface in the colon, and then it just is too much. And then all of a sudden prolapse of the colon. And then as I see that, I see my mother's parents come, and they're both holding each other's hands, and then all of a sudden they're holding their stomach, and both of them are like in pain, and then they go to the ground, and then they just slowly just die. And I'm like, wow, what's happening to them? And then I realize that my mother's parents died when they were in their early 40s, and they were in the countryside of Ireland. They were eating very well. There was no reason that they seemed very healthy. They just died. Both died around the same time. And they both died then of bowel cancer. And I was like, wow, I realized I'm carrying the exact same belief systems as they are. And I'm going through that. I'm re-experiencing the same things that they've experienced. And then starting to hit me. I'm zooming out, almost like a memory reel in front of me, these timelines. And I'm seeing all these generations. And then all of a sudden, it just clicks. It's like, I realize I'm something more than even this. Like, I'm more than what the mind's going through. I'm more than what this body's going through. I'm something greater. And the moment I experienced that, it was like I had space from everything. It's like I stepped out of everything, and I no longer identified with my mind, which was that I'm broken. I need to be less broken. It was like a realization that there's nothing wrong with me. It's like, healing, this idea and I'm broken is just something in my mind. And it's like I entered just a complete bliss state. And I remember it was like the body was an option. It was like I could be in the body if I wanted to, but it wasn't necessary. And it was like, it was such a bliss experience that at the time my mind couldn't, like it was beyond what my mind could even remotely articulate or conceptualize. It just had no idea what was going on. But I remember just feeling absolutely blissed out. And then I remember coming back to open my eyes, and it was like this idea of like what this mind's going through. It was kind of like, oh, it doesn't really matter. It was like, it doesn't really matter. And then there was an urge in the body to go to the bathroom. And then I remember just thinking, it doesn't really matter. It's not really that important. That was the first like realization I had. This is all optional. And I was like, yeah, I'm just not even going to pay attention to those things. It's going to be somewhere else now. And so I remember being in that space for like more than 24 hours, just staring at a wall. As far as I remember, I was just staring at a wall the whole time. But I was like way beyond this human experience. And after that, I remember going home. And I remember meeting my parents, and I remember just being like, who are they? I remember I had thought, like, what are they even doing here? That's one of the first things I remember. So that was my first experience of me. The veil kind of went away, and I started to return back to the space of who I am. That was like the first I would say, the awakening experience I had.
It's so fascinating to dive into the detail of that, because to hear something like that firsthand, and how that sets up, when now looking back to phase one of the recognition that you are more than just the human and just the body and just the mind. And now yet you're still now stuck with this colon and this challenge. And so where do you go from that point? Because it's one thing to be able to access that state, and that's incredible. But the body's still suffering on that level. So where did it take you next?
That was only the beginning. There was so much.
I thought that was the end. I thought that was the end of the spiritual path. That's what I was told. That's the end.
Supposedly, yeah. That's the idea that many people actually narrate. It's like, that's it, it's there. It's like, no. That was the very beginning. That was like me being a baby at step one. No, that was nothing compared to what's coming next. But it's also it's the most beautiful moment, because it is the moment that you wake up. It's the moment that you have a glimpse of, wow, you have an experience of who you are. And it's always the most special moment in the human experience, because if you look back, that's the moment that it all changed. That's the moment that your old self couldn't I no longer really believed that the mind was who I was. Deep down after that, I never really believed all my beliefs. There was something in me going, I don't know. I'm not sure if this is really true or not. Because in a way, I experienced truth, and all this mind stuff, I'm not sure. So after that, it was like that. It was like, I had no prior condition. I had no prior teachings of spirituality. I had no knowledge of spirituality. I had no idea.
It seems so unfair.
No.
I know people, myself included, who've searched for this experience for so long, and almost like the more you want it, the further away it gets. Right? And here's you, obviously struggling terribly, right, and in a bad way, but suddenly it's sort of almost pushed upon you in a way. You don't have a choice.
Yes, I really see that those experiences are timed perfectly, and they're beyond what our mind can understand. So our mind is trying to get somewhere at a specific time, but then our soul's going, you have an idea of what you want, but are you sure that's what I want? Are you sure that's are you aligning with soul time, or are you aligning with some idea in your human idea of what you need? Because there's what your soul needs and there's what your human needs, and not always the same. So it's like, because one is effortful and one's effortless. One will just flow and one will just feel struggle. So in that moment, it was great. Grace came upon me, and it just happened, I would say. And that was, after that, it was difficult. Really difficult. It was really, really difficult, because I became extremely apathetic. Like, extreme. I was entering states of apathy and just pointlessness on a regular basis. I was just looking around me going, what am I even doing here? I was like asking questions like, what's the point of being limited? What's the point of being in the human experience? What is like, if I know who I am, what am I doing here? Like, what is this nonsense for? I didn't understand. I really didn't get what the point of it was. I remember I just realized something, that I was greater, but what am I doing here became the question.
I'm not just on that one. I'd love to unpack that a little bit, because I'm going through something very similar myself right now, and it's because of the work that we've been doing together. It's the way I would articulate it is that having realized and having some experiences of being that greater point of awareness, it becomes increasingly obvious that the motivations that were driving you in areas of your life before, which gave you a sort of meaning, even though there was desperation and there was clinging, there was meaning, that you realize that a lot of them are stories that are fueled by trauma or other people's ideas or pursuing material wealth or some sort of kind of human psychological desire. And the more you start to realize that, like, that those motivations start to disappear and they were keeping you going. Right. I remember going through periods where I would keep myself like radically busy. Like even on the weekends, I'd have a task to do. I'd do this around the house and then I'd have work and then I'd do this. And like I just kept taking on more and more and more and more and more different things to do, just busy work. And now there's just a recognition that that's what that was. It was a psychological crutch that I was using. And the challenge now is that even though it was in many ways not serving me, it did give me a level of meaning. And I can really resonate with that apathy that you're talking about. And it's really disconcerting. It's like I feel, I just feel lost. You know, it's like, it's really such a strange feeling. It's like who I thought I was isn't who I am, and the things I thought were important are not what they were. And so who am I and what am I doing and why? Could you speak a little bit more about that?
This is
that
where
apathy or that dark night of the soul, whatever language you like to put around it.
This is where, when you articulated earlier about phase 2, so phase 2 is like, oh, this old stories, there's so many of them that are heavy. I'm realizing how heavy they are inside me. I'm realizing how they really don't light me up. They're really pulling me down. And they're causing a lot of pain. And I don't want this pain anymore. I don't want this suffering anymore. I really don't want it. I just can't be around it anymore. And I feel that's the hard part of the journey is really the phase 2. It's like, oh, this pain, it's the see, pain is the driver now. Pain is the driver because pain is like, I'm going to keep knocking on your door. If you sit with me and really just hold space with me and ask me questions and become curious about me, I will move. But if you do not listen, if you don't want to listen to me, then I will not move. And so letting go and practicing letting go and practicing cutting away things is actually an essential part of the journey. Because when I let go, only what's actually true, only what's meant to be, only what's really aligned will remain. And it's a beautiful understanding is that the mind is like, oh, I want to hold on to everything. I want to hold on to all the old stories, all the old identity. I want to be this old self. I don't want to change. And I say, okay, I actually want to align back into the light. I want to align back into that space of who I am. I want to stay there. That's the goal now. If that's the goal, then anything that's blocking that, I want to let it go in this moment. So every morning, every night, I can do a practice where it's like, okay, I want to realign with the light. I want to stay in this light, and I want to affirm, I serve you. It's like, light, I come back to you. This is who I am. And you're just reaffirming that. You're almost honoring that again. And then you can say, any thought, any idea that's not in alignment with you, I want to let go of now. Any idea, any thought, any belief that I've been carrying that's not bringing me into light, into my soul, into my highest experience, I want to let go of now. And that practice of doing that is actually really important. at this stage, because you're clear in your thought field, you're clear in your information field of all information that's actually not aligned for you. And why that's so important is because at this stage of the journey, it's very important just to keep clearance. It's very essential to clear and clear and clear, because your natural self actually just reveals itself. It's not that you have to go hunting for it. So in a way, physicalizing your purpose is that your purpose is there in the background. Your identity is there. It just wants to come to the fore. It just wants to come down into the physical. So you don't have to chase it. You don't have to create it. You just have to reveal it. You have to make space for it. So when you're in that suffering phase, or even it's just moments where we're in that suffering, that's why it's so essential to know a method or practice to actually let go of the old identity. And that's where this method comes in. It's that to die, there's a whole process of dying. There's a way to do it easier, and there's a way to do it really hard. So if you don't have a method or some kind of structure, you're just dying basically, and you're going through a difficult time. But if you have a method, you're like, wow, I can do this in a smarter way. I can let my old self die and purge out of me. I can purge out the old stuff, which is the stuff I've been carrying from my lineage and my childhood. I can purge out all that old nonsense. And I also realize, oh, my true identity is on the way. It's coming down. And that's the other side to this journey. You're dying to many things, but you're also awakening and birthing. You're birthing to so many aspects of yourself you've never seen before. So it's like you're going into this beautiful rebirth of like, yeah, I'm birthing my soul into the human experience, but I'm also dying to all the stuff I wasn't, and that's intense. So it's part beautiful and part tragic at the same time.
Yeah, I feel that. And in the revealing of the purpose and what lights you up, there's so much old stuff that needs to die. And I'd love to revisit your story now at this point, because you've had this awakening experience. You are uncovered this need and necessity to start to heal. And then you've also got this other element of, this idea of a soul's purpose, or your true self starting to kind of show its face or emerge. And so how did you get from that stage of I'm 19, I've got incurable diseases, to now being alive and going around the world and teaching people this?
There's a bit of a gap there, isn't there?
Because, spoiler alert, like he survived this one. His colon has not been removed.
It's not been removed. So after that experience, when I would go to sleep, I'd wake up in the night and I'd start to go into those memories again. I'd start to go into their lives, and this was going on every night. And I remember one night, like it was all the time going on, like into re-experiencing what was happening to my grandfather and my grandmother, and I never met them physically, but I was like going through their life experiences in detail, like sitting at the dinner table and this thing was happening and this is the weather outside, and then I'm just like, you know what? When I get up in the middle of the night, I'm just like, would you just stop? Would you just get out of would you just go away? Like, what are you doing? Like, what was this all about? I don't want to do this. Like, I just felt so fed up. Like, I was like, what is this? Like, this is annoying me. Yeah, it was like ghosts. And I remember, like, it's so funny having all the Christian stories and mythologies growing up. It's like, I was like, these are like, what are these? The ghosts of my ancestors? What is going on here? Me researching this flat out, like, what is this? I couldn't find out. I wasn't ever, because there are ghosts from the past. Like, what is that? Like, what is happening? And then I'm obviously researching like all day about trauma and all these concepts. And then I came across this understanding, oh wait, memory from the thing, people that have this memory from their ancestors, like intergenerational memory. There's these dreams of your ancestors. And I was like researching this topic, and there was this thing called intergenerational trauma. I was like, what is that? And at this time, coincidentally, I actually started to study neuroscience. So I went to London and studied functional neuroscience, and I specialized in a thing called memory. So it was like pain memory, basically pain science, and it's a study of how the brain creates sensations, how it creates reactions to things in reality. So it's like how it interprets information and how it creates reactions. So it's functional, which is the understanding of how it actually works practically. And I was realizing that my interpretation of things, I don't know where this came from. This is really nothing to do with my life. I can't figure out anything in childhood that was creating this. And I was like saying to people, I feel like I'm just re-experiencing literally their lives in my body. And I'm putting it into reality physically, externally. So these ancestors were coming to me regularly and re-experiencing their lives. And then all of a sudden I was like, I have to find a solution. There's coming to me for a reason. It just got this thought, okay, maybe I can help them. Maybe I can help myself. I don't know. Maybe I can help them. So then I was like, what do you need? Like, what do you want? And then all of a sudden the grandfather was like feeling these things. And I'm like, okay, put your hand in that area. And I said, breathe into it. I said, just breathe in and feel it. Like, oh, express it. I express that sadness, express that hurt. And then he starts expressing it. And it's like through my own body, I'm like helping him. I'm showing him how to express. Then all of a sudden I'm speaking to things that he couldn't speak to. I'm articulating things. And I'm going into the grandmother and going, yeah, okay, go there. Yeah, just express that anger, express that hurt. And I'm going through it in my body, expressing it all for her. And then I'm starting to notice this big release in my body from doing that. And I'm starting to realize, oh, maybe I'm feeling a lot of relief by helping them. So I'm doing this all the time in the night. And then doing this, so much information is coming to me, and I'm helping them release all their traumas and all their wounds. And then all of a sudden I'm going to the bathroom. I think it was 6 weeks after this. I remember going to the bathroom and there was no bleeding. And then I remember being like, wow, this feels so different. And I remember looking at the mirror, and I realized there's no inflammation in my colon. It's like my abdominals are straight, and usually they were twisted to the left. And I was like, wait, touching my belly. And I was like, none of the symptoms are here. And I'm staring. I remember at that moment, I stared at that mirror. I stared at the mirror and I was like, blown away. I mean, blown away. And I was like going in and out of like all these kind of like, it was like, is this real? Is this not? What's happening? And that same space I got into in the first awake experience, just kind of that kind of experience came back to me, that kind of similar kind of experience where I was like kind of zooming in and out of my mind. And then all of a sudden this shiver went down my spine, and it was like a voice, this real clear voice came. It was like, this is why you're here. And just shiver, boom. And everything's just clicked just by that one statement. And it was like I just understood something like, oh, this is exactly on time. And I've healed this exactly on time. It was almost like I knew why I got into that, and I knew when I would get out of it, and this has just happened now. It's almost like a timeline thing or something. I was like, okay, I'm on time. I'm in the right space right now. And now it slowly started to make sense. I was like, okay. And I stood there for I don't know how long. And then all of a sudden the voice came again. It was like, everyone's going to think this is a miracle, but you know exactly how this works, and you're going to explain it. And that again, that voice just made so much sense. It was like, oh, I haven't just experienced this. This is not just a miracle. I was like, I know exactly how this works. I know it's like I knew in my body. I was like, I know this inside out, how this process works. I know it from top to bottom. I was like, wow. I was just like, wow. And then my mind was like, I have no idea. What do you mean? How am I going to explain it? I don't even know what's even going on. What's it even about, this whole thing? Actually, my mind was like, I actually don't know what's going on in general. Like, what is this? And my heart was like, felt so calm. I was like, I know. It was this crazy thing, but my heart was like, I know. And my mind was like, what are you doing? I don't know what's going on. Please help me.
Oh, what an incredible experience, and also just massively confusing and confronting on so many levels as well. I mean, you're growing up in countryside in rural Ireland where, this sort of stuff maybe 50, 60 years ago would have got you straight into a mental asylum, and that's the reality we're dealing with here, is that there's a lot of skepticism and confusion. And you're actually studying in neuroscience at this point. And what was their perspective of what was happening to you, and how all of this was happening, and like, how do you now make sense of the mechanics of it, and having taught many people and including myself, and helped people to do this sort of healing? What's your understanding of how this is all working for someone who's sitting there and thinking, that sounds like magic?
First thing I'll say is that a miracle is what you cannot understand. So it's relative. If I held up a phone to an old person who's been living in a cave for 40 years, they'd be like, oh, it's like, what? That's a miracle. So it's like, so if you're now like meditating and you're reaching these beautiful states of bliss and calmness, to someone who's like always stuck in stress and anxiety, they're like, but how? What do you mean? Like, that seems like a miracle. What do you mean I can't just stress out if someone says that to me? It's like, it's blowing their mind. It's like, that's almost a miracle. How can you heal from anxiety? That's impossible. But someone else is like, well, I just breathe one moment, now it's gone. So it's very relative. When it comes into what I was experiencing, I was really experiencing the topic of, can structural problems change in the body if you do not have surgery? So the limitation, I was studying functional neuroscience, and it was specifically called receptor therapy. So if you rewire receptor pathways, then oftentimes the structure can change. And majority of health conditions can change just by changing the nervous system. But in this case, it was like, what are the limitations? To what level can you change the structural body? So at this time, I was like, I just went through an experience that I don't even know how to describe it, but it's breaking the paradigm of what I thought was possible, or what I've been studying. And so then I'm talking to the teacher. I'm like, well, what's just happened to me? And he's like, well, basically the fascia around the colon, it is being controlled by the nervous system. And when it perceives trauma, a threat, those muscles can either turn on or turn off, or the signal to them can change. And so if the contraction of the muscles are not the same, if the signal is not the same, if it's reacting to some trauma, it'll weaken, for example. And because the fascia can stop contracting the same way, then the area can start to prolapse. It can start to lose its structure. And then if inflammation is also a response to stress, basically trauma creates the stress response, which can create inflammation in an organ. It's basically, stress can express itself in any area of the body. And so colon is just one way to express it, which later I found out is related to a specific type of trauma expression, which is related to shame and guilt. And so trauma expresses itself in different parts of the nervous system. So there it was, shame and guilt expressing itself in my body, expressing itself in the colon area. And worry, also anxiety, is very common in the stomach area. So there I was, having a lot of shame and guilt being triggered. And then the colon getting inflamed, having issues with digestion, and then the feeling of not being safe, completely unsafe, because my grandmother felt completely unsafe, my great-grandmother felt completely unsafe with regard to sexuality. So I was re-experiencing that. So my pelvic floor, my muscles and pelvic floor just went completely switched off. So then the colon just started to inflame. The muscles weren't contracting, so then prolapse happens. Rectal prolapse, which is like basically, in a way, symbolic of completely unsafe. And so the teacher wasn't explaining it like this now. He was more explaining it like, well, the muscles can lose their function, and then that's why the prolapse can happen. So then when you rewire those neural patterns, which in a spiritual sense is like when you let go of that trauma and you process it, then the nervous system can change its function now. The signals to the muscles can change. The muscles can start to contract. It pulls up the structure of the colon. The fascia moves up the structure of the colon again. The inflammation in the colon also goes down to make space for that, and then it repositions itself. It realigns. And so if I explain it like that, you're like, oh, that's quite logical. I can understand that. But that is not what the neuroscience field understands at all. They don't understand the depth to which that can go. They cannot explain it like that. They cannot even articulate it like that. They actually, because they're not even open to really looking at how trauma expresses itself in the nervous system. That's that's where they're at. They're not really looking deep at how emotional trauma, how it's categorized and how it's linked to nervous system, and then how it's linked to the physical. They don't really study that path, that intersection, and that's why they can't understand it, because they're not even going there. It's really more alternative. It's like open-minded, alternative people who are really into neuroscience that are studying these things right now. So they're not in the mainstream. It's starting to become more popular now, this study of how trauma expresses itself in the body. But when I was explained this, then that's when I went diving deep into understanding, for example, the work of Alexander Lowen, bioenergetics, Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud, these Western psychologists that were studying what's called psychosis and all these labels. But when I started to come across Alexander Lowen's work, he started to say that trauma expresses itself in the body. And that's what really made sense to me, because I experienced it. And Freud was very much like, no, it's not in your body, it's in your mind only. And it's like, then I started to really question, what is this thing of the mind? I started to question, like, I thought my whole, is the mind just in my head, or is it the whole thing? And that's when I got this realization that actually the whole nervous system is what you consider the mind. The nervous system is everything in the body. It's not just the brain. The brain's only a part of the nervous system. And then I started to realize, wow, it's like, this is a whole different way to think. And that's when I started to really get into this field of how to rewire the nervous system, how to recondition it. And that's when I came across things like Joe Dispenza and these kind of people who were talking about quantum reality and go into the quantum and change yourself there, and then your nervous system will change. And then all of a sudden, all miracles can happen. And I remember thinking, yeah, that I've experienced it. I get it. I just want to break it down. I just want to get to the root of this. So that's when I had a realization at some point where I was like, it's just like an incredible experience where I was like, wait, everything I'm thinking, I'm starting to notice how it makes me feel in my body. So I started to realize that the way I think is like a story almost. It's like a story about something. And behind it, there's a feeling. and observing the feeling behind the story. It's almost like there's an energy creating the story, and I'm observing that feeling. And if I express the feeling, then almost like the story stops being stuck in me. So if say I have a story like I'm not good enough, I start to notice it makes me feel heavy. I'm like, well, that's really affecting my body. So then I start to feel that the feeling behind the story, and then I start to express it. And then all of a sudden it just goes out of me. The feeling, it's like I express it and processes. And all of a sudden I say that same statement again. I'm not good enough, and I'm not bothered by it because my body doesn't believe it anymore. And I'm like, actually, my mind thinks and my body believes. So I just have to change what my body believes. I don't really care about my mind. This is not even about my mind. It's about what my body believes. And then that's when I start to do this all the time with all my all. I just observe any beliefs I had that were like feel heavy in me, that felt limiting. So I just start attacking them, like going at them, like flat out, just going like this. And then that's when I linked, this is where it all came together, where I realized, wait, these beliefs, these stories, where do they even come from? I realized this is what my mother's going through. This is what my grandmother's going through. These are their experiences and their stories that I'm carrying in my body. So then when I went into their experiences and I started expressing for them, these beliefs just moved out of my body within seconds. It was like just moving out, because it was like I was processing these deep, deep programs. And most of our deep, deep programs, trauma-wise, is actually nothing to do with our life. They're almost always intergenerational. The big things. I mean, yes, there's some experience to pick up in this lifetime, but a lot of it's just intergenerationally repeated. And so when I start to understand them, all of a sudden I start to get rewarded. It was like all I had to do was understand the root of it. And once I did, it just released. And so my body was rewiring a lot of things. Like my movement, my shoulders started coming back, my breathing, my nose started opening, all these things that was really dysfunctional before just started rewiring itself. My eyesight was changing, like hearing was getting better. I was like rewiring everything. I was like, wow, this is amazing. It was like I was just like hacking this whole computer. I was like, this software is changing now again and again and again. I was like, what's possible? Like, and I started working on other people, and I was like, right, you have an eyesight problem, you have this problem. Okay, let's go. Let's I'm gonna just hack in here and see what's going on here in your programming. Okay, right now. So you have this belief that you're this and this, and you have trauma here. Okay, let's go into that. And then we start to bring it up to the surface, and we start to process it, and we start to go into seeing, I guide them into a meditation and start to actually bring them into the presence of these ancestors. And when you start to imagine, for example, the presence of your mother, if you start to imagine the presence of your mother in the space beside you, take a moment to pause. You might start to realize, wow, notice how you physically feel now in the presence of this mother. And then you can now sense what she feels. So you might have a sense of what she feels. And so notice this sense, this ability to just tune in to like even your mother, what it's like to be around your mother. Almost everyone I've met has that ability to just feel the presence of their mother wherever they are in the world, or their father, or their grandfather. And I'm like, wow, what is that ability called? And I was like, I don't know what it is, but it's almost like because their memories are my body, of course I can access them. And so I was just understanding this all through a neuroscience point of view, but then later I found out, the presence of our ancestors are always accessible at any time. Because as a soul, we're karmically connected to our ancestors. But anyway, so this ability started to come strong to me, and then I started writing the methodology. So everything for me was like, I had a method. I have to share this to people. This is my mission. I need to do this. Like, if I don't do this, this is my obsession. And so then I called it, this is an inner conversation. My ancestors, this is inner constellations. This is an inner constellation, I called it. And then that became my first method I created. It was like how to go into an inner conversation, an inner dialogue with your ancestors and with your inner child, with your past versions of yourself, so that you can now learn what was not learned. You can actually express what was not expressed. You can speak to what was not spoken. you can feel what was unfelt. And that process rewires all this conditioning. It rewires yourself. And that's in a way the summary of like how I recoded my nervous system and mind and body. And then as I did that, obviously the true self started to come down.
It's so incredible. And from an experiential perspective, I've been doing psychology, psychotherapy work with people and on myself for 10 years, Myles, and more. And we understood trauma, and we understood how to take memories of things that happened to us in this lifetime and neutralize them, right? To if people had PTSD, if we had conditioning ourselves with different areas, we would work on them. But when I met you, you expanded the thing massively. Bringing in the ancestral stuff and connecting to that has been a game changer for me. I've noticed over the last 10 years, a lot of the things that have been really stuck in my body have started to shift. Like I used to struggle to sleep really badly. It was something that really helped. But since moving and working with you, all the sort of things have opened up for me massively. And it's not just ancestors, it's also souls in this lifetime now. You can invite into that space and feel their presence and really seek to understand. There's something about this: understand, express, and then let go. Right? And the seeking to understand and then the expression of that in the body and then the letting go of that has this healing effect. And then there's other things are starting to open up for me, which are past life situations. And so I'd be interested in your thoughts on this, because last weekend I did a past life regression, because I completely resonate with your experience of feeling hunted, of feeling not safe, right? For like continuously not feeling safe. And no matter what, I would have to like really calm myself and soothe myself. And that has helped and that has worked. And then doing ancestral work has really helped. Doing work on this lifetime has really helped. But in a past life regression, I actually experienced multiple different lives where big, strong emotional patterns. The first one was grief and sadness. And I went back to a past life where my wife had died and I was watching her burn in front of me and had a child beside me. And the grief I felt was unimaginable. And I could just feel that all coming up and out of me. And then I went into another lifetime, a different one, where I was in a different place. This time, like the first one was more of almost like a Celtic age. The next one was a medieval place. And again, a wife had died at this time of an illness, but I felt a numbness. I felt like a complete disconnection from it, right? As if I had learned somehow to numb and suppress. And then I went into another lifetime where I was a young Indian girl. I was experiencing this and I was being married off and didn't want to go, but then was with a husband and the husband was rough and forced himself on me. And I was actually like in a sexual way and it was distressing, but again, I was numb again. And then I went into another experience where I was a young native Indian man who was being bullied by the chief, and the chief was really cruel. And then I had this huge anger response. And actually in that lifetime, I killed him with a stone, with a rock, like, and the anger just came out and came through me. And then I go into another experience where in that experience, I am a young African boy and I'm being hunted and chased by a pack of hyenas, and the fear is incredible. And I watch myself getting killed by these hyenas. And so I'm having these experiences, and I go to another experience where suddenly I'm a being of light, and I'm in this different dimension where we're all beings of light, and we're sort of guiding other beings, and we're bringing light to places that are dark. And then suddenly it all just merges and disappears. And so I don't know if that was a true experience of past lives or whether that was my imagination bringing up scenarios to allow me to process these big emotional wounds. But since then, something has shifted in my digestive system, where my digestive system used to be really struggled to digest, and I had a lot of diarrhea. And now it's starting to right itself. And this has been happening over the last number of years and months, but now it seems to have just settled, and I feel calmer. And when I was processing those emotions, it just felt like it was the right thing to do. It didn't feel weird or in any way sort of strange or spooky. It just felt like coming home to myself a bit. And I've been super curious, and we haven't actually discussed this yet, but I'd be interested in what's your perspective on past life as well as ancestral, and have you any experience there?
Well, first of all, that was a phenomenal experience.
Wild stuff. No one was more surprised than me. I'm expecting nothing to happen.
Well, usually the most powerful things happen when you're like that. It's like, well, the experience that you were a light being, can you describe that again? Like what that was like?
So there's no bodies, and we are beings like balls of light, but can communicate with no words, but the voices are there. And we're on this sort of, it's almost like a planet of light, like just like it's like light's like almost like a fusion, a ball of light. Everything is just like like vibrating really, really fast. And the sense was that as there were parts of the universe that were emerging, and that we were bringing light, perhaps the light of awareness, to these as they were emerging, and we were meeting them, and that we were also guiding other beings into the different experiences. Like we had responsibilities. And then the guide actually said, go to the end of that experience. And so at the end of that experience, things just went like, it just sort of winked out of existence, just went vroom, like that. And then and then we're back in the room and sort of processing that. And so that was the final experience. She actually guided us and said, go to a life that you've had that's not been on Earth. And that's what came up for me.
Wow. So how was that for you? How was that experience of like experiencing that? Just that specific part?
It was surprisingly normal. It was so strangely normal. Do you know when you just, like, have you described when you had that experience where like you're healing, and like it seems crazy to tell the story, but when you're in the story you sort of feel like, yeah, that's the way it is. There's no big like, wow, this is so amazing, or this is so crazy. It's like there's a sense of calmness about it all, like as if you're just there experiencing it. That was how I experienced it that time.
There's a knowing, a deep gnosis. That's like the soul.
I would have given, talk to me 5 years ago, I would have given anything for an experience like that. Take any drug, give me any sort of, if you could say, I guarantee you an experience like that, I would be like, wow, like that's all I want. And would this be like this fever around us? Like, this is like, that's going to solve all my problems. Like these sorts of experiences, like if I just have these, then I'll truly know. But when it happened to me and that experience, it just felt like just there. Strangely neutral.
It makes sense. It makes sense because ultimately this is the beautiful thing here. It's like, and maybe I've shared this to you before. If you're experiencing anything, this is like a real high level perspective. If you're experiencing any type of memory or visions or information, the way I used to look at that in the past was that this is a story. I'm experiencing a story or a memory, and I'm the one that's experiencing it. I am that experiences this. That's first and foremost. And because I'm that, because I know who I am at the root, I can go into this experience. Not a problem. Not a problem. bring me any force or form in this universe, and I can watch it. Why? Because I am that. Bring me any quote unquote negative thing, and I can watch it. Why? Because I know who I am. So fear no darkness. Fear nothing, if you know who you are. So it's the first thing that I thought of there is like, people are scared of experiences. Like, oh, I'm scared of going into these experiences. I'm like, who are you? And they're like, all right, remember who you are. And it's like, okay. You're getting caught up a little bit there in the visions and all the things, which is cool. But remember who you are at all times. And that's the idea of alignment. Stay in alignment in it all. It's like there's a space that's greater than all of this. Remember that. No matter how much suffering you're experiencing now, or how much joy you're experiencing, remember, there's a quote. It's like an idea of like, today, what you're suffering today, tomorrow might be different. What your joy today, but tomorrow, this is only temporary. Everything's cyclical. So it's like, when it comes to big spiritual experiences or a big phenomena like that, I feel like when you kind of know more who you are, it's much easier to kind of just go through things like that. It's much easier now you're more open. You just see so many things now. And it doesn't faze you. Like, it's quite common that I experience very phenomenal like things, and I just be like, yeah, I just had to, like, relative to other people, maybe that's like, wow, that's like the biggest experience I had in my life. I'm like, well, that's a Tuesday. So it's just, I just felt called to share that first, you know? And I feel like as you're growing in your realization of who you are, you're just gonna find it easier and easier to have big experiences without being like, oh my God, I need to be, it's not shaking you at the core. So with past lives, like, memory on the human level, like, memory is been influenced by my ancestors, of course, on the human level. But then memory of my soul, like my soul identity, is my true identity. And there's parts of my soul identity that is also, you could say, karmic or traumatic, or there's parts of my soul identity that's not all light. Kind of like the human. On the human level, trauma and light, but then on the soul level above that, there is karma and light. Similar idea. And so the karma is like what I've yet to learn, my challenges, my core challenges. Or your karma is your core challenge. And then your light is like, oh, what lights you up the most and everything. So the goal is like, can I turn that challenge, can I turn that trauma, that setback into art? Can I turn it into light? And so we're driven to experience the opposite of what hurts us the most. We're driven. And so we're driven to turn it around. And why I'm saying this is because that's why we incarnate. We're incarnating in different experiences so that we can turn these karmic lessons, these things that hold us back, we can turn them around. We can turn them into the light. And so there is no purpose without that. There's no purpose without challenge. Nothing would mean anything. So in a way, duality is like they're intertwined. Meaning is intertwined with it. So on the soul level, we're incarnating in different experiences so that we can expand more into the light, so we can go further and further into the light, so we can embody more and more of the light. And as we go and learn more and go more to the light, we're growing in our consciousness. We're getting higher and higher in our consciousness. And there's beings at every level. So there's beings that like very close to the light beings, and then there's angelic beings. It's like all sorts of beings at the very top of the spectrum, and then there's just pure light. And the pure light is the source of all things. It's symbolically we call it the Father, but it's the source of all things, and all the form comes from there. And the further away you are away from the light, that's the most dense experience you can be in. That's the darkest experience you can be in. It's still part of the light. It's just a spectrum, but it's far away, so it's darker. Versus if you're closer to the light, when you realign with the light, when you orient yourself to the light, it feels lighter, more expansive. And so all exists within the one. And as a soul, we're incarnating in this human experience, and it's much denser. It's like, wow, it's quite a lot of challenges, but it's obviously helping us expand as a soul. But as in regards past lives, I see it like this. I just see it as like, your soul has access. You have access as a human. You have access to your soul memory. You have access to your soul memory, and you have access to the past experiences you've had in other lives. That's there. The question is, though, what's the relevance of it? Like, what can it? I always come back to, like, what can I practically do in this lifetime? What am I going to get benefit by going into my ancestors? What benefit am I going to get from going into my past lives? And that's a really key question here, because just getting information about past lives doesn't necessarily mean anything. It doesn't necessarily mean it's good. You're just pulling information from the past. But if you go with the intention of, maybe I'll process something I didn't process before, like a constellation, you can do a past life constellation. And if you go in with that intention, it's different now, because it's if you feel it's aligned and feel you're called to do it, then usually you're going to have a good experience, a healing experience, because you're doing it from alignment. You're extracting information from alignment. But if you start trying to go into something, forcing it, then you can end up, you're just retracting information that's not helpful for you at all. It's actually just a big distraction in your path, which is quite a lot of people who are looking at past lives. They're often just looking at it from the point of view of, oh, I just want to extract information from the past. Oh, it's cool. It's nice. It's like, oh yeah, that's really cool. I'm like, this is distracting you, actually. This may not even be helping you at all. So with past lives, there are a way we can heal through past life constellations. We can heal through ancestral constellations. Ultimately, what we need to learn as a soul, we will get an ancestral line that has those lessons to learn. So by doing ancestral constellations, you can actually, you're also simultaneously solving past life constellations. So you're actually doing it. You're doing a very similar process, because when you're healing your ancestors, you're also healing your soul. So they're very linked. And I have found everyone has a different path. Everyone has a different method, that everyone has a different. Some people are doing Reiki. Some people are doing massage. What lights you up, what makes you feel alive, is going to be what heals you. So some people feel a lot of excitement about going into past lives. And if they feel a lot of expansion and lightness around it, then it's going to work for them in terms of healing. But if you don't feel particularly resonant with past life stuff, then it's not going to heal you, no matter how much you try it. No method's going to heal you if you don't feel expanded around it, don't feel lit up. So what I'll say is that past life regressions and past life, I consider past life constellations. I would use a constellation style to go into past lives. And I see overall ancestral constellations is the same kind of thing, which is that you're just going to learn what you didn't learn. You're going to process what you didn't process, and then your body can change. Your mind can change. You can let go of things now. You become your real self. But I would say, the last thing I would say is that what our ancestors believed in doesn't be what we have to believe in. And that's why it's so important to come back to who you actually are, and you're not ultimately the ancestors. So with the past lives, it's like that as well. It's like whatever you did in those lives, they're other people, and they're not necessarily. It's not you're going back in and learning what they learned, but you're also realizing that you're here now in this experience, and what's relevant is what's here now. You're this person, and so what they needed to learn may not be the same what you need to learn, and that's why it's so important to always remember that in these experiences, that they learn. There's themes that can carry through to now, but not to get too caught up in identifying with what they went through. saying that, oh, I was the king of Egypt. Well, I must be the king of Egypt now, or I must be that person now. I'm like, no, that person had to learn different things. You're a completely different person now. That's the tricky part. Not that a lot of people, not that would happen so often, but it can happen. And I would say that I've had past lives, and like I've had different past lives. One of them has been pretty wild things, but one of them's been like the Pope, long time ago. And I was experiencing that life, and I was okay. I learned lessons from it, and I'm like, okay, I'm no longer that being, no longer that person. So I just let it go. I let go of really not caring, but I was like, you know what? I'm a completely different reality to me now. So yeah, that's all I'd say about past lives.
Again, fascinating. But the fundamental principle here is process what was unprocessed, understand it, bring it into the light, let it go, and be gone with it, and realize that you are actually the awareness in which this is happening. And so we've dived pretty deep into that phase 1 of recognition of awareness. We've really given this healing piece in phase 2 a decent crack, although we could probably talk about it all day. And you said something around phase 3, which was your biggest traumas can become your gifts to the world and your purpose when they're flipped. And I'm curious now about how this purpose comes into it, because if I'm this awareness that's just expansive and everything, like why do I need a purpose? Why do I actually need to do anything at all? And what is that? What is this whole idea of a soul's purpose or a soul's blueprint, and how did that come into this equation?
That's such a significant question. That's such a key question, for the reason that I return to the light. I am the light. I am the light. I don't know how many people I've heard, like, been involved with a lot of different healing methods and spiritual methods, and been around lots of different seekers, and they're like, I am the light. And I'm like, yes, you are the light. Great. And now what? And now what? They're like, I don't know. I'm like, it's fascinating how many people have no idea what to do next. And the idea of spiritual bypassing is like, oh, I'm the light. And I'm like, okay, but how do you bring that into this experience? That's so, because we've been so conditioned through older spiritual ideas that we just ascend and that's it. No. You come out of the mind and body to realize who you are, and now you come back down, bring this into the physical experience. That's the point. You're going to bring the light, you're bringing this light, who you are, to the body, to the physical experience. That is the purpose. That's the point. It's not to go out. To go out is actually totally, like, that's only like a very small, that's a first step. This doesn't finish there. And it's very obvious. It's like, of course, like, the idea of like Buddha on the mountain, I remove all things and I become nothingness itself. Okay, nothingness. Now, that's great. Go in the mountain and be there, but can you then you realize, which I did, I've been in the Himalayas, I've been up there, stayed there, lost all my possessions, everything. Then I realized this is not it. It's not it at all. Because I realized that as I'm observing reality, as I'm observing these thoughts, I'm observing that there's things that light me up, things that I'm drawn towards, that light me up, that make me feel expanded, to get me towards the light. And then there's thoughts that make me feel heavy, make me feel contracted. And I'm noticing this phenomena of a resonance, I'm like, wow, what is this? So I was in the study of the method of rewiring the nervous system and going into Neuroscience 101, like, and I was like obsessive, writing research on all these aspects all over my wall, papers all over my wall, like blue tack everywhere, like just like crazy amount of detail, and just like it was either I was getting the answer or I was dying, there was nothing in between, I was gonna get to the answer of this method, and So I was obsessive, doing constellations of people all the time. Any friend I had was like, let's do constellations, let's go into everything. Let's go into your ancestors, let's go into theirs, let's go into that person, let's go into this person. So obsessed to master this skill. And then I was like, one day I was like, you know what? Maybe actually what I want to do is I want to write a user manual to the nervous system. I had this thought. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to write a user manual to how to work this operating system, because we're all in it. But I don't know how many people are taught, like, right, you're driving this vehicle. I know that we assume we know how to drive it, but do we? Do we actually know how to drive the nervous system? And I'm looking around me like, I think people have no idea. I actually don't think I had any idea up until this point how to drive. So I was like, seems pretty important, because that's determining the reality. So I actually want to know how to use this user manual. And then I was like, okay, I'm studying all these things about how to use the user manual, but I'm like, this thought came to me, and it was like, I was like, there's something else. There's something I just can't put my finger on it. Don't know what it is. And then I started to do retreats in this process. So I did retreats called co-connection retreats. And it was the idea that when you connect deeply with people, or you're around people, they're mirroring back a lot of your own programs. You can actually learn to see yourself through other people. It's like a hack. I was thinking, it's a hack. Like, you can actually figure yourself out just by being around different people and seeing how you relate with them. So, long story short, I was just facilitating trauma healing for a lot of people. I was working a lot with people in their bodies and their pain issues with this neuroscience method, which a lot was hands-on. There was movement-based, there was breath-based. It was very holistic, because my background's in many, many, many other things. I have qualifications in body work and manual therapy and yoga and all sorts of things. So for just a few years, I was studying, but also facilitating a lot of work for healing with people, usually with physical health issues, and using this trauma work to help them. But eventually, I just became hyper-focused on emotional trauma specifically, not so much physical healing, but I just became very obsessed with getting to the root of it, which I felt really a lot of it was based around emotional trauma. So that's what I became really like hyper-focused on. So I started to go deeper and deeper into that, and then I eventually did these retreats and diving deep basically into emotional trauma. And as I was doing these retreats, it was the last retreat I did on this. I was doing meditations. So there I was meditating and bringing people into this kind of observer place where they're kind of like the space and observing things. And then it was like this really strong voice. It was like, who am I? Came. And the moment that voice came, I actually remember I was teaching this concept of radical honesty, just be radically honest. And I was like, if I'm radically honest, I actually have no idea. I have no idea who I am, really. I like, not so much who I am, but why I'm here, more that aspect. I really have I actually don't really know. I'm actually think I know, but am I sure? I'm not sure. Is this all just a story? Because then people are telling me at this time, they're like, oh, we make up our own reality. It's all our story. And then I was starting to question, if this is all just made up. So I just make up all my suffering. I just make up all this healing. It's just all made up. So I'm just like, then what's the point of it then? Like, it's all just is it just an illusion? Is it all just an illusion, and hence is it all just meaningless? And that triggered something in me. I looked at people around me and I said, if I'm being honest, I don't know who I am. I don't know why I'm here. I don't really know. I think I know, but I'm not sure. Then I asked people, do you know who you are? And they're like, well, my name's John or something. And I was saying, no, but who are you? They're like, no, but I'm like John and I'm from here. I'm like, no, but that's the idea of who you are, but who are you actually? And they're like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, if we're being honest with ourselves, maybe a lot of us don't know who we are. So we're actually all just pretending. So we're all walking around absolutely lying 24/7, pretending. As if you want to embody radical honesty, then be honest. And I was like, that just planted a seed in me. And I was like, I actually don't want to continue facilitating anything anymore if I don't know who I am. Because I realized I want to embody radical honesty at the highest level. And I don't know. At that moment, I realized I'm not being fully honest with myself. That moment changed everything. So after that retreat, I went home and I was like, I actually don't want to speak the English language again. I don't want to talk about anything from the past. I don't want to tell any stories about who I used to be, because I want to know, if I'm none of that, then who am I? If I'm not Myles, if I'm not this story, if I'm not all these stories, then who am I actually? I was like, yes, that is it. That's the way. That's the way to find out who I am. Because if I get rid of all these nonsense stories, then I'll really know who I am. And so I was like, right, I'm gonna pack all my stuff, just save everything, or like get all my money, gather together, and just go. And I'm not coming back. If I don't figure out who I am, I'm not coming back. I'm just not gonna keep living. I'm either gonna die or I'm gonna find out who I am. There's only two options. So then I just take a one-way ticket to Brazil. Just get a one-way ticket to Brazil, and I just start walking around Brazil. People are like, oh, question me, like, who are you? And I was like, I don't know. And they're like, what do you mean?
Can you tell me?
I'm actually, I don't know. Like, do you want me to pretend or something? I don't know. And so the apathy, that the root of that apathy is coming to the very surface. It's almost like the last layer of that apathy. It's coming to the surface. I'm there, it's like 5 months in, and I'm not sleeping much, and like 3 or 4 days I'm not sleeping, and I'm losing a lot of weight, I'm bleeding in my mouth a lot, and all these things are happening. My eyesight's going in and out. And then all of a sudden I'm like, does this even make any difference? Like, what does it even matter? It's all a story. Like, if I sleep or not sleep, if I bleed or not bleed, if I have pain or not pain, this body goes through this or that or left or right. Does it make any difference? What does even matter? And then had this realization, you can do a thing called Mahasamadhi, which is you can leave the body consciously. And I literally thought at that time, I was like, probably I'm just getting to the end of it all. I've probably nearly completed this thing, this whatever this task is here. I've kind of seen through the illusion. Maybe I was thinking maybe this is where I'm at now. Where this is all this human stuff. It's like whatever. Like no, break your leg or not, or get married or not. Like what is the point? What difference does it make? You know. And so I was at this point, literally at this point, where I was like forcing, like I was either going to die or I was going to realize what this was all about. So there I was, and I was 3 nights in a row. I couldn't sleep. It was a full moon. It was December 2019, and I was walking on the beach on an island in Brazil called Florianopolis. And I remember just feeling so like, I felt like I was leaving my body. I felt like, this is it. This is over now. And I was walking on the beach, and I was like really getting really weak. Then I remember my knees just collapsed. I fell onto my knees, and then I just like hit my head off the ground, like onto the sand. And it was like I could just hear all the liquids out of my body leaving. It was like it was like everything in my body was just like falling out because there was nothing to resist it or something. It was like all this sound. And then all of a sudden, I just like see my body 3 meters above, like 4 meters above, just see my body. And then all of a sudden, nothing. It was like blank silence, like nothingness. It was like an eternal nothing. It was just nothingness. It was just like 0 point or something. And I don't know how long that lasted for, which means it's always lasting. But at that time, I was like, something happened, and then I was nothing. And then all of a sudden, there was this spark of light. It was almost like a little spark of light, and then the light just kind of just expanded, and all of a sudden, form was created. It was like form, like almost like a tree or some form was created, and all these particles started to spread out. And then all this form of the universe was created. Spectrums of light was like beaming out. All these like kind of forms and beings, and all these things were created. And then all of a sudden, I see plants, So I see planets. I see plants, animals, all these things. I start to see the evolution of the planets. And then I see the evolution of Earth going from like the particle to like the material to like eventually like sea animals to like land animals. And I was like going through the whole experience of evolution. And I was like experiencing each stage of the evolution of Earth. And it's like I realized how far consciousness has expanded on this planet. Then I seen these humans, and I was like seeing like a almost like a dimension above the humans. It was like the light was like, it was like fractalizing into like individual little dots, like little buds on a tree, and each bud then was connected to a body, and it was like in this bud, which is like the soul, there was little dots on it, and there was core challenges. There was core challenges or core things that's going to struggle with. And then there was the opposite side, which is like the core of what lights us up the most. So it's like these core gifts and then these core struggles. And if the person can realize the core of their gifts, them gifts will go over to the core struggles and heal them all, transmute them all, and turn them into art, turn them into light. And so if the soul recognizes what lights them up the most, they're recognizing what they're here to do, what they're here to focus on. They're recognizing their purpose. And when they start to focus on what lights them up the most, then all of a sudden all these struggles start to just transmute, they start to fall away, they start to dissolve. And then they start to experience the opposite of it, which is they're experiencing deep down what they really want to experience, and they're experiencing their dream then. They're starting to experience their dream. And so this is the soul journey. This is the soul journey in essence. And some souls have enough light, enough consciousness to actually recognize what they love to do and start to move that karma. While some souls have very little recognition of what they love to do, and they move very little of their struggles in their lifetime. And so there's all this spectrum of souls on this earth that can do that. And I realized, wow, that's as simple as it. That's the soul game. That's the human experience. It's quite simple. And then it showed this body, this man on the ground, this Irish man just lying there. And I was like, looking at this lad, I was like, then it goes down into the body of this man. And then all of a sudden, this man goes, oh, like a breath, like this. It was like life force came back into the body. And then I started to experience this man, like this Myles character. It was like reborn, like alive again, came back from the dead. It was like, there he is. And it's weird, like I was experiencing it like from above and also in the body. It was a dual experience. And then it showed the identity of the soul of Myles. And it showed the core struggles. And it showed the gifts, the things that lights up the most. And it showed, and then it just from that moment, it just went straight into then the body then. From the Myles perspective, it went into my body. And I started to receive the core of what lights me up. I started to receive like literally the visions and words of my purpose. And then my elements, my purpose were literally given to me. It was like I just experienced them. And then I experienced the core of my struggles. And then I experienced how they were going to lift me and turn it the other way. And in that moment, everything made sense. Like the whole incarnation made sense. And it was completely experiential. It was really, it's very difficult to say that was mental. It was not really mental at all. It was really experiential. It was so quantum that even since then, not all of it I would remember. There's so much of what happened there that I wouldn't have remembered, like, and I still don't remember, but I just know that overall little bits of the experience. So I'm only articulating what I actually remember, but I remember walking down on the beach after that, and I had the life force to do whatever I needed to do. I realized I will get the energy, the life force to do whatever is needed. Like whatever. I was like, there was a realization that I'm here for specific things. I'm going to do that. I'm all in on that. And anything else that's not relevant to that, remove it now. Any information, any thought forms is not relevant to what I'm here to do. Go, leave. It was just gone. There was just no space in me entertaining. Not my focus on anything else. And it was like I felt unbelievably powerful. Like just so clear, crystal clear. Everything was simple, clear. And in that moment, I realized who I am and why I'm here. So that was the moment I realized my sole purpose. And then as I went home, I started writing everything I was going through. And this took me weeks. But I remember a few days into that writing, I was like, this is overwhelming. Like I actually like need space, like process everything. Like I need a lot of time. I need like a long time away from everything. I need like literally just to be with myself. And the first thing I was like, oh, I can't stay here and do it. I need to go somewhere else. And the first thought was like, where could I go in the world that could help me here? And immediately it just came India. It was just like so obvious, India. And then when we were going on the beach the next day, and I seen Indian people in front of me, and they were like, oh, get a photo with us. And I hadn't seen an Indian the whole time in Brazil. And I was there taking a photo with India, and I was like, wow, this is like, I'm going to India. This is like so obvious. I went home, I booked a flight, and I flew out. Like maybe 10 days later, I flew to India. And when I went to India, I just remember, like, I went into the Ganga. All I knew was Rishikesh. And I remember being in the water in Ganga and just remembering so many things. Like it all just clicking in place like crazy. Like all these past life memories just flooding into me now. Like past lives. I could see myself in India teaching all these different spiritual concepts through different incarnations. And like every time going in a different level of it. And then when I was in the water, it's my first day. I was in the water and this Indian guy comes over to me and he goes, hey. He's like, hey, like goes into the water, like, and tries to like get me out of the water. And he's like, hey, my guru wants to meet you. And I was like, where's this thought like guru wants to meet me? I was like, whatever about that. Like, I don't know. Immediately my mind is like, I don't know. I don't know what if that's even important. I don't know. Like, I'm just not sure. And he's like, no, he really wants to meet you. It'd be an honor for you to come to him. And I was like, okay. So I walk over him, and there's me with a pair of shorts on. And I walk over to him, and there's like a group of people around him. And he's like, you have to kneel down in front of him. And I was like, kneel down in front of him. And I was like, that's a bit weird, but okay. So I kneel down in front of him, and I look up, and he just puts his thumb right in my forehead. I have like photos of this. Puts his thumb right in my forehead. And I literally realized that, oh, I know exactly who I am and why I'm here. And this is very simple. This is clear. I just see this like light. It's like, yeah, it's not complicated. This mind is trying to complicate it, and it's actually just nonsense. Like, I really have experienced it already. And so it kind of, that moment reaffirmed what I just happened in Brazil. I was like, I actually really get this. Really, really, it's like I really get it. And then I look up to the light and I put my hand up in the air, and I just went like this, the light. And then he put his hand up in the air, and we just looked at each other, and it was like we were the same person. It was like literally we were the one. We both were the one. We were like looking at each other like we're the light. It's like I didn't see any difference between us. And this guy was like a 70-year-old Indian man, and he actually interestingly looks exactly like the neuroscience teacher I had. And there's the same. I've had the same kind, and actually, Neem Karoli Baba looks the exact same in the face as this guy, which is very interesting. So it's like I'm there, like, okay. And then in being in Rishikesh that whole time for a year as the lockdown started actually 2 days after that experience. So I was there, and I started to realize that all this method I'm doing this method of what I'm going through, this is a different method. This is something bigger. So then I realized, to master the nervous system, you have to master what observes it. To really understand the nervous system, you have to understand what observes it. How can I even change the nervous system? I have to be something more. And immediately I was like, well, I'm this soul. I am the soul that observes the nervous system. So if I understand the soul, if I master the soul, I master the nervous system automatically. I was like, okay, this is not just a method for the nervous system, this is a method for the soul. So then my whole interest started going, I want to understand the soul. And I realized, that's the method I'm doing. Because that will naturally lead to change in the nervous system on a high level. So then that journey began in India, where I was exploring all about the nature of the soul, the nature of memory. And long story short, I started to realize that the opposite of what hurt me the most, which was all the work I was doing, was making room for my self-realization, for me to realize actually what lights me up. And the whole experience I had about the core challenges and the core of what lights us up, I realized that's the soul experience. And I started articulating that and breaking it down. And that eventually became the soul alignment method. That eventually became the understanding that because there's a core of what hurts you the most, there's the core of the opposite. So if you can recognize right now what hurts you the most, recognize that there's the opposite experience of that. And that's what you're unconsciously driven towards. And that is your purpose.
Just so much in that to unpack and dive in. First of all, incredible experiences, and what I love and has been very resonant to me in meeting you and working on this method is how it links all of these different various aspects from a lot of different areas together into one whole. Because you're taking the experience of non-dual awareness, then you're coming down to use that awareness now to start recognizing trauma. And you're healing trauma, which is something that a lot of people are talking about now, taking healing trauma on the ancestral level even. And then you're starting to see, well, no, this trauma is actually teaching me something core about what my soul is here to do. And through my deep intuition and following that and looking for what's the opposite of my trauma, I can start to uncover what actually lights me up and the gifts that I'm here to give to the world. And so for me, having gone through those sorts of experiences, I look at a core pain that I've had growing up. And an example of that was just not feeling that I could really be myself, right? Really feeling like growing up in Ireland that if you were a bit weird or you said something different or you're interested in anything like too imaginative or something, that people would put you down. They would be afraid of it. They would be scared of it in some way. And just having uncovered with you, the opposite of that is like this sense of freedom to empower people just to be you. And who you really are is your soul's blueprint. And what I love about this is using the radical honesty that you described to just actually intuit deep down, what is it that lights me up? And you have redefined success as, rather than being about material success or what your parents said you should do or even what you think you should do, success is actually the degree to which you can uncover your soul's purpose and align yourself with that. And so I would love to hear for anyone who's listening this and is wondering, like, how could I ever know what my soul's purpose is? How could I ever feel that? Like, I can't think about, when I think about purpose, I think about maybe saving the planet, or I think about climate change, or I think about, I don't know, like doing charity work or something like that. Like, how would you help someone to understand their unique purpose and really be sure that that's their unique purpose? Because I think that's something that a lot of people are very, and I am and still am, but I'm working through it now, very confused about and scared to take a step in a certain direction for fear that they're wrong or something bad is going to happen.
Thank you for asking that question. That's a huge universal question. And I would say that purpose, first of all, is unclear and complicated in how it's narrated in the world right now. And it's not clear. People are coming up with big definitions. Like, I've went into the research, any research I could find on internet and books on how people have researched purpose, like life purpose, soul purpose. Like, what is all the research ever done that I could ever find? And I'm still on that quest to try to see how people have narrated it. And their definitions, they're unbelievably just complicated and just full of jargon, and just it's like unbelievable. And what I realize is that these people who are researching purpose, they actually don't know who they are, and they don't know why. They actually haven't experienced it at all. So they're just trying to intellectually start and understand purpose, but they just cannot comprehend it. And that really brings up the big question. It's like, who you are, that is what creates purpose. So who you are, so recognizing first who you are, that's like the first step of purpose. Because if you don't know who you are, then you don't know you don't know who creates purpose. It's like, purpose is who you are. So you're the light, you're the source. So if you realize that, you experience that, now you start to realize, from here, I start to notice what I resonate with and what I don't. And what I resonate with, what lights me up, what gets me into expansive states, what gets me into joy, what gets me into excitement, what gives me life force, what expands me, what's meaningful to me. That is what I define as purposeful. There's things in this reality that are very purposeful, that are life force given, that are light, that make me feel lighter, that expand my soul. And then there's things in this reality that drain my energy, that bring me down, that suck me down into apathy, into hatred, into irritation, into anger, into sadness, into lower states of consciousness. And I would define them as less purposeful states of consciousness. So, in essence, if you can focus your attention on what's expansive and what's light, what lights you up, then you're focusing your attention on what's purposeful in this moment. So in every moment, you can align and focus on what is purposeful. So that's the moment-to-moment understanding of purpose. But then what you realize is that there's certain things that I do. I notice that there's certain things that I focus on, there's certain things that I do that get me into expansive states of consciousness, that light me up, that give me life force. There's certain things that I do. And I start to realize that, oh, wow, I start to write them down. I start to record all those things that light me up the most. And then you start to realize there's themes in it. And then you can get to the core of what lights you up. You get to certain elements. You get to the core elements of what lights you up the most. And you start to recognize, when I do that, when I put my time and energy into those things, I actually really feel aligned. It's easy to get into the alignment state. It's easy to get into lightness. It's easy to get into excitement. It's easy to get into states of high consciousness when I do these things. And you start to recognize that the soul is sending you a signal and putting a thumbs up and saying, I'm giving you these states of consciousness because you're doing what you're here to do. You're in alignment. And so you're starting to recognize that there's things that you're here to do. And how you know that you're here to do them is that they'll get you into those states of consciousness. How do I know that what I'm not here to do? Well, can you recognize what makes you feel heavy? Can you recognize what makes you feel drained? Can you recognize what makes you feel apathetic? Recognize those things. Now, there, you're getting a signal about what you're not here to do. So this is where it comes down to purpose. It's like, purpose is discerning and recognizing what lights you up the most. And then when you bring that down into paper, into words, into visuals, you can start to break it down and you can get all the elements together and actually create an image, which is actually what the soul light method does. It breaks your soul purpose down in detail. It articulates the core of your struggles. It articulates the core of what lights you up. It gives you your soul blueprint in visual form. And when you see that, it is the synthesis of who you are and why you're here. And that is what the method does. And it's a technology. It's really important to have that, because there's so many humans on this earth right now that don't have that technology available. They don't know how to do that. They don't know how to break down their soul identity in that level. Because when you can put your soul identity into that level of clarity, now you can put your time and energy into that. You can take action on it. You can do that whole thing. But until you know your blueprint, it's hard to know where you put your time and energy. So I would say the significance of knowing your blueprint is that now I know where to put my time and energy.
I think that this is the antidote to so much of the confusion and the depression and the nihilism that we have in the world today. And yet, when I was first coming into this idea, I had no idea that purpose was a real thing. I thought it was a mental thing that people were making up, and I had tried many times to mentally figure it out. And it wasn't until you actually guided me into how to discern. Because before, when I had asked myself, I didn't know how to listen or what to listen for. I didn't know that I was listening. I was actually listening for sensations in the nervous system. I was listening for a sense of expansion. And it wasn't until you showed me this that I then had the courage to actually follow those things. Because for many years, I thought, well, you know, I love jumping into the ocean. And being in nature, but that's just a frivolous thing. That's something that's got nothing to do with real life, because real life is about work and, making sure that you have a good career. And real life is about, helping other people. Or in other circumstances, I was like, well, I'm really lit up by the whole conversation around spirituality, but sure, there's nothing really in that. There's no money in that sort of stuff. Like, it's like, how could you ever? And I think there's something in what you're saying and in what I'm experiencing now as I go through this, that like it actually makes me so emotional, and like to the sense of gratitude that I have to you for showing me that what's truly inside to come out for me is what I actually should dedicate myself to. And the courage to do that, and the willingness to let go of all that is not heavy, and let go of material things, of things that I thought was important. And I would love to hear, like, what would you say to someone who says, yeah, that's all very well, but one, I can't hear any difference, or I can't feel any difference in any place. If I get a chance to relax, I'll go on holidays and I'll sit on the couch and veg out and relax. And I can't do that because that can't be my soul's purpose. And two, I have a wife and a kids, and I have a husband and I've got children, or I've got a job that I don't really like, and I can see that feels heavy, but I don't know how to change that because I need this money to live. And if I don't have this money, then I'm going to die. And so I just kind of stick it, and I have a few drinks at the weekend, or I smoke a joint, and kind of it's okay. And I have a few holidays, and like, I'm sort of getting through it. And I know that. And it, although, I'm not experiencing what you're talking about, being lit up, but it's not that bad. Right. And so like, what would you say to someone who's in that scenario, and who they can sense something in what you're saying, but they're looking at their own life and they're sort of confused about what that would even look like for them?
The first thing that's coming to me is that, notice when I was sharing that, I was talking about recognizing what lights you up, being able to discern, not getting into a space where you can really in a proper space to discern what activities in this earth, what experiences that really light you up. Getting into that space is the key here. And that's what, like, really this method allows for that to happen. And, I'm facilitating this, and you're going to facilitate this, and like facilitating this allows the person to get into that space. So I would say for the person listening is that when you get into that space where you can really listen, whether through me or you or someone else, when you get into that space of really being able to listen to what lights you up, recognize it, and you can start then articulating and breaking it down, then you start to realize that this is what your soul wants to experience in this life. And some of it will express in relationships, in lifestyle, in career, in your physical health. But the aspect of like physical health, career, relationships, lifestyle, they're just external expressions of what your soul wants to experience. They're avenues in which your soul can express itself. So this is the really distinction here. Lifestyle, career, physical health, relationships, none of them are the purpose. They're just avenues in which you can express your soul. So you're here in the human experience and you have career, you have relationships, you have a lifestyle. It doesn't necessarily mean anything yet. It's just something that's there. But if you're in alignment in that area, now you feel your soul in your relationships. But if you're not aligned in your relationships, then you're just there in relationships, but it doesn't mean anything. There's no point to it. It's interesting. It's like, it's not really about should I do relationships or not? You're always going to do relationships. Or should I do physical health or not? Well, you're always going to do physical health. Should I do career or not? Well, in a way, you're always sharing something. You're giving value exchange. Maybe you're earning money. It's very common. It's just there. The point isn't about any of those things. The point is actually that who you are, first of all, that's where the purpose comes from. When you're in alignment with who you are, now you're on purpose in career. When you're in alignment with who you are in relationships, now you're on purpose in relationships. When you're aligned with who you are with your lifestyle, now you're on purpose in lifestyle. So you see, when you're on purpose, it technically means you're in alignment. You're in alignment with what you love to do, with the space of who you are and what you love to do. That's what it means to be on purpose. And then it will naturally express itself in these avenues. So I really want to distinguish the difference between where people are stuck is that they're like, oh, is it lifestyle? I'm like, no, go behind that. Oh, is it the career? No, go behind that. Is it the relationship? No, go behind that. It's not that layer of reality isn't the source of purpose. And you'll never understand purpose if you look at it that way. Because an action, for example, what you're called to do and what I'm called to do could be very different, but we can both be in alignment with our purpose. So that's why you can't give this universal prescription of what to do to be on purpose. That's why, for example, go and help people with charity, go and help people with volunteering. That's a form, that's an action, yes, but that could be out of alignment for you or in alignment. If it's out of alignment, it means it's not your purpose, which means technically speaking, you're not helping. You're only helping the world by being in alignment. Because we help the world energetically. The world is helped energetically first and foremost. So this whole understanding is very paradigm shift, completely different way to see the purpose than what we were conditioned. It's very different. It's actually way more simple and clear, but at the same time, our old understanding can get in the way. It's like, because we're so obsessed and conditioned to define purpose as what we do. Because from a young age, we're told purpose is what you do. But first of all, purpose is who you are. Purpose is who you are. And when you align with who you are, you realize purpose itself. And then you start to think and act from there. And now you're thinking from purpose. Now you're acting from purpose. So alignment is more the highest priority, not what you do. And so if you align, you're doing the first step when it comes to being on purpose. And then when you start to align and focus on that and align what lights you up, you'll naturally start to act out your purpose in the world. And over time, your relationships will start to match what your soul wants. When you're in alignment with what your soul wants in relationships, now you're on purpose. When you're in alignment with your soul in career. Now you're on purpose in career. You see, the distinction is the key is what your soul. It's not looking at the form. It's a little bit of a distraction, actually. So at this stage, it's like when I'm speaking to someone, I would be asking like, what's in alignment? Because I want to speak to what matters here. I don't want to just say stuff. It's like in the morning, I'm like, what am I called to do? Like, what am I called to do this month? What am I called to do with this phase? I'm tuning into what's purpose telling me to do. I don't care if everyone in the world is telling me that's what purpose is if it's not alignment for me. Because that's the thing. It's like no one could tell you. Like that's the idea of like telling everyone what their purpose is. It's just absurd.
I've been asked by many organizations in the work I do to come in and help align people to their purpose. And it's just so laughable, the idea that you could go in and align someone to what a corporate organization's purpose is, or anyone else's purpose, when you understand that fundamentally purpose is this emergent property that's being created moment to moment, and you can participate in it when you sit in that intuition and actually discern from that place. And like, for example, in my life, and I'll give you an example, and you can see if I'm on the right track. And I'd love to hear from you. How do you get behind the purpose and actually know that you're in the right place? And so I'll try and articulate it. But for me, one of the things that feels like purpose to me that I should do is this podcast. Right. So this is an example. I can say, well, if I'm doing this podcast and I'm on purpose. But the question then is, behind that, what's actually going on? And so when I sit with that question and I really think about what is it that really lights me up behind this podcast, is that there's something about exploring what's possible for humankind, exploring what's possible in the human experience and sharing the light of that, exploring it. There's something about that. And that can manifest in a podcast. It can also manifest in different ways. For me, physically, in movement, I like to push the boundaries and explore what's possible in my body, for example. And so I'm wondering, is that sort of an articulation of it closer to the source point of what purpose and alignment is for you? Or how would you articulate getting behind as you described?
Well, I recognize certain activities I do that make me feel really like inspired, like light me up, give me life force. Yeah. So that might be what you're experiencing. And then you're noticing this form, this action. Oh, it triggers me into those states. Okay. That's good. That's important. Let's act more on that. Let's do more of that. And then you'll start to notice that as we've done this work before, there's certain core things that light you up that will remain with you for your whole life. There's certain things that will remain with you for a while and then might slowly disappear. And then there's things that are only temporary. But there's different levels to of this. But the key is to get the core, because the core doesn't really change. Then the things that are more surface to that can change. So what I'm trying to say is that deeper behind the podcast, there's a theme. There could be that, I want to share information to the world. I want to, what lights me up is media. What lights me up is interviewing people, is creating educating people. There's something behind it, deeper reason behind it. For example, dance for me. Dance lights me up a lot. And then I start to realize, within dance, I'm exploring different types of dance. But then partner dance is the thing that really lights me up. But within partner dance, there's different types of partner dances I do, and they can change over time. But overall, partner dance remains there all the time. But yeah, it's kind of shifting what I'm doing within partner dance. So I have that level of clarity around that. So with podcasting, it could be the core theme, or it could be a branch of a bigger theme. And so what I'm saying is that this is we're getting more advanced here in this kind of conversation, but it's like you could be experiencing a branch, which means if you're experiencing a branch, it might shift away from podcasts in the future, but it might be here for a few years, maybe here for a certain time. If it's your core, it'll probably be here for a long time, your lifetime. So what I'm saying is, either way, you're following what lights you up, and you're acting, and you're expressing it all out of you until it might never go out of you. You may be eternally interested in podcasts, or you may only be interested in podcasts for 5 years. Some people do podcasts for a certain amount of years and move on. Some people not. It's just everyone's purpose is different. So that's like every person listening to this is doing what they're pursuing, what lights them up. And people say to me, well, how can you say that there, because I could change? I'm like, well, yeah, I understand, but it's nuanced. It's not just like yes or no. I am a dancer now. I'm never going to be a dancer again. And tomorrow, it's like not like that. That's not how it works. There's actually core of our identity doesn't change. Like there's certain things it does. So there's layers to our identity. So with purpose, it's like that. And it's beautiful to recognize what lights us up the most and get to the core of it, because then we can then rest in that foundation. We can rest in that identity. It's not like your identity is just going to fall away tomorrow. That's the beauty. It's beautiful to have an identity because it's a structure. So in this level of where we're at in the journey, there's nothing wrong with having an identity. It's actually a beautiful, you can trust this identity now because it's aligned. You can trust what's coming to you because it's aligned. It's no longer attachment anymore. The reason why we're cutting away and talking about not being in the mind, don't be in the mind, don't be in the mind, the mind's bad, don't be the ego, don't be the ego. Because usually we're talking to people who are just not in alignment. So they're doing a lot of things that are not healthy for them. But once you're in alignment, you can enjoy the mind now. You can enjoy the information. There's nothing wrong with it. Actually, it doesn't have bad or good. It just is. So I don't know if that answers the question.
I think it does. It goes a long way to, and there's some huge sense of relief in the redefinition of success from money or career to living in alignment with what truly lights you up, and then whatever money, career, etc. that you have on the back of that is where and what you should be doing. There's something so relieving, because we are continuously pumped with this idea of we need to get material security, we need to get material success. And there's many people, and I count myself as one of them, who says, I will only do what I enjoy once I've established a base level of financial freedom that is gridlock iron, and it can't move. And so I'll pay the price, whatever the price is, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, to pay that mortgage, to do that thing. And the price is your soul, actually. And it's not a price that is worth paying, no matter what you think. And I just think that there are so many people who I meet who are really laboring under the expectations of society, their parents, their own fears and their own neuroses about material success. And the joy has gone out of their life, and they feel wooden, and they come across wooden, and they're in relationships that they don't actually want to be in, but they've made compromises everywhere at every stage in their life. And they're now suffering the consequences of having made all of those compromises. And it's horrible to see, and to have experienced that now is horrible to be in, because once you get a sense of there being something better, it makes going back there and not moving yourself away from that almost intolerable. And so I'm curious now, when we think about this phase 4 of starting to now go into the world and say, geez, you know what? Like, I know I've been an investment banker for 20 years, but like, I actually want to now do drumming circle retreats. I just love it. And people looking at you like you have two heads, and starting to get into this idea of conscious relating. And as you try to embody this purpose more in your life, what was your big learnings around this phase 4 piece, and what would you like to share on that?
Well, I do want to speak to, I know that a lot of people probably have questions like, so they're trying to wrap their head around this concept of like, okay, it's not, don't get attached to like the relationships and the career right now. Look at what lights you up. They're like, all right, they're trying to get rid of that original condition and they're trying to get back into that. I can imagine people are going through that right now. So what I will say is that it can look like there's multiple things that will light you up. When you put it together, it'll all make sense. Some of that will express itself in career. It could end up being that you could have 2 or 3 streams of income, for example. It could be part of your purpose. It could be that you're here to like, you just love singing, you love painting, and also you love constructing with wood. Maybe singing as a stream of income. Maybe wood as a stream of income for you. Maybe that's your main job, being a carpenter, etc. So it can be multiple streams of income from different elements of your purpose. And then parts of your purpose then have nothing to do with a career, that are really nothing to do with it at all. There's something completely different. There's something that you just love to do. All of them is what you love to do, but it's not related to money necessarily, or just like that type of value exchange. So I just want to put that out there because I want to speak to the idea that career is this big question everyone has about purpose. They're very obsessed with the career aspect of it. And all I'll say is that your lifestyle, your relationship are just as important. Like living in alignment with your relationships is just as important as your career. It's not any less. It's so important because your soul wants to experience multiple things. It's not just about career. You've lived to 18 years old probably. You didn't have a career. Was your life just meaningless then? You're just totally like, oh, this is useless. Like, no, it's not. It's like when you're 70 years old, you're not working anymore. Is your life meaningless? No. So how can purpose be like? What is this about career? This is like an element of our expression, but we have to cut that idea obsession. We have to realize that's where it comes into. I want to live my purpose in all aspects. Affirm that versus I want to live my career. Because when I live my purpose in all aspects, my career will naturally, as a consequence, align and be satisfactory. You'll figure out your purpose and career easy if you figure out your purpose. If you focus on aligning with your purpose and living it fully, you will naturally live your career's potential. It's actually a hilarious thing. It's actually, you go higher than it, naturally it will come down. So it's like, I want to find out what I'm here to do. Well, first stop obsessing with what you need to do and realize who you are. And there you'll know what you want to do. It's like a natural consequence. So sometimes we can't figure out the problem on the level it was caused. We can't figure out the solution on the way you're thinking of that. Maybe because the way you're thinking about it isn't where it's going to be solved. You need to think bigger. When you think bigger, all of a sudden it gets better. So sometimes the solution to thinking is to stop thinking, to get out of it, go to something bigger, and then all of a sudden thoughts start to align. So why I'm saying that is because when it comes into now living our purpose and really like bring it into the physical now, it's like, I would say the key is being committed. And this is where I think you've been talking to me about this recently, but being committed to actually saying, you know what, I'll do whatever it takes to align with my purpose. I let go of all things that's not purposeful. I let go of all thoughts in this moment that are not in alignment with my highest. I let go of all ideas. So every morning and every night, I do a routine where I go to the light and I say, I surrender to you. I commit to you. I let go of all information, all thoughts, all ideas that is not in alignment with you. And only what's in alignment with you remain. Remove all ideas, all actions, all relationships, all form, all career activities that are not in alignment with you. I do that every morning, every night. So then my career starts to become crystal clear and clean. And anything that falls away was not what's in alignment anyway. So it's a good thing. Let it all fall, because what's real will never go away. If your relationship is true and aligned, it will not disappear. If your relationship with your friends or your romantic partner is actually aligned, they will never go away if you let go. So don't worry. But at the same time, If it's not aligned, it will fall. So are you committed? Are you willing to go for your dream? Because your dream life is what's aligned, what feels effortless and light. You can live in a place where it just feels so light and it's really not heavy at all and it's beautiful. You can live in that vibrational experience. You can live your dream, your soul's dream. Do you want to live it? Well, this is what's required. If you are committed to really living it, then let certain relationships, let whatever needs to fall. If your career starts to fall apart and you just can't handle it anymore, let it be. Meaning, like, it's clarity, it's feedback. It's like, just align with your highest version of yourself. Keep going towards that, and then your career will evolve. It will always move to something else. One of the most common blocking points for people with regards to career alignment is obsessing that it's black or white. Oh, it has to be this way or that way. Multiple streams of income is a common thing that I see in people, that from their soul perspective, but they don't think like that. A lot of times they're like, well, if I lose this job, then I don't have a job. I'm like, how can I let go of my job as a carpenter and be a musician? How can I possibly do that? I'm like, you can be a musician and a carpenter. It's like, who said that you have to be one or the other? It's like, your passions don't have to be a full-time income right now. Your passions can be a part-time income. You don't need to sacrifice everything just for one thing. Only if that's truly aligned for you, which is certain people's path. Some people need to just die to everything and just focus on one thing. That's some people's path, but not everyone's path. A lot of times it's not everyone. I would say it's more common that it's not a person's path to just let go of everything all at once. It takes time, because think about this. Alignment is a process. It's not something that everyone's able to just go for it today, tomorrow. It's like you keep practicing this, and then things will fall away, and then you'll realign. It might take a year, it might take 2 years. For some people, just being realistic, it might take 30 years for them to get into a full alignment around something like career. That's because their consciousness is at a level where it's hard to fully align. So be grateful that probably the people who are listening are people who actually are able to do it faster. And all I'll say is that from my perspective, like, I went straight. I just goes, remove all information that's not relevant to my path. Like any beliefs, even any beliefs about what it should look like, I just committed to actually losing it all. And then what remained was actually truly what aligned.
As a fellow extremist, I have massive respect for that. As a fellow extreme, I think that's a really important point, though, because it's not a call to just abdicate all your responsibilities or to throw everything out. It's a call to start listening to yourself and to aligning to what's truly in there. And it takes time to listen and takes time to learn. And that's a process I'm still going through, of actually learning to hear that and align. But it's been one of the most definitely meaningful experiences of my life. And as I continue, it brings up so much in terms of limiting beliefs, in terms of uncomfortable sensations, in terms of patterns of trauma, wounds. And the healing work just continues, because it has to be let go, for me at least, in order to align. And the more I align, the more it brings up the gaps and the things that are pulling me down. And so the whole thing works in cycles almost. And so, and then the relationship side of it, like this conscious relating, the more you then start to get clear on that piece of purpose and you start to articulate that out into the world, it resonates with certain people. And they start to feed it back to you. And then they go, oh, you should meet this person. You should meet that person. Or you start to create relationships based on who you are and who you're becoming. And things get drawn into your field. And for me, one of the hardest parts has been to just trust that process and speak the truth. because for a long time growing up, I was very afraid to say how I really felt, and I would people please a lot, and I would think that I'm on the right side morally by not speaking the truth to people, because I didn't want to either make them feel uncomfortable or for them to think that I was weird, or um, for them not to like me, or whatever that was. And as the more I started to be truthful and really speak to what I'm really curious about in the world and what I'm interested in and the difference I'd like to make, the more I've just found more and more people who love me for who I really am have come in, and it's improved my relationships immensely. And so I can really resonate with what you said about letting everything that's not in alignment go, and that sometimes means friends that you don't have same things in common with anymore, or it can mean family members, it can mean, and those things can be really hard. And I think particularly I know in Ireland there's a real stigma around loyalty and people thinking that they're too good for other people or they wouldn't talk to people and all of this stuff. And we're not talking about unkindness, or not talking about being mean to people, but what you are talking about is actually speaking what's true for you and allowing things that no longer serve you to just move away.
Yes, and this is, we're getting into conscious relating of phase 4, which is like boundaries on what, boundaries on what not, and boundaries on what is. It's like you have to draw the line somewhere. So by actually, the interesting thing about boundaries is people are like, oh, so what is boundaries and how do I say this and say that? And I say, well, before speaking, actually, first of all, when you go into alignment, you feel so light. When you stop focusing on that, you've already lost your first boundary. You're already going out of the state of lightness. You're going into a heavier state. You're less protected now. So in a way, you've lost the first level of boundary. So regardless of where you are in reality, whether a person there or not, you can lose your boundaries by walking in the grass. You can lose your boundaries by laying on the bed. So these boundaries exist then. And then all of a sudden, when you're not doing what you, by the fact that you know what you love to do and you're recognizing, you're already drawing the line on certain things in life. You're almost letting go of certain things and you're aligning with what really matters. So in a way, you're already drawing the line. You're already creating a boundary. Your soul's identity is naturally a boundary. So the idea of boundaries is aligning with your true boundary, with your true shape and form, if you understand. Like, you're aligning with your true shape and form. But then when it gets to the practical version of this, which is with people, it's like once there's other beings around me, people, I first focus on stay in alignment and stay focused on what matters to me, what really matters to my life. And now when I'm around someone, I have to check in, what feels meaningful for me to say? And is this purposeful? Is this purposeful for me to go towards this person? Does it light me up? It does. Okay, I'll go towards them. If it doesn't, maybe I'll not go towards them. So even there, it begins there. The boundaries are starting even before I even interact. And then if you're with family members or someone close to you where that's not really an option, you're literally just with your family members, then you can then ask the question, does it feel light me up, or what does it mean? Does it feel meaningful to me to actually have a conversation now? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So if it really, really doesn't, and you really feel like this is just not helping me at all, you can take space. Of course you can. You can actually walk away. Now, even more practical than that, it's like when you feel like, right, it's important for me to talk to them. It's not something I really enjoy, but it's important, it's meaningful, or something. Maybe it's that you have a child with the person, or you have you're your parent, or someone that's really close to you. You're kind of like you're in a kind of, it's important for you to interact with these people, even if you don't love everything they're doing. So if you're in that situation, now the boundaries really matter. So then the next level comes where it's like you have to know your own needs. So it's important to know your own needs. It's important to know like what matters to you, what behaviors matter to you. Like, for example, I want to be seen, I want to be heard, I want to be listened to, I want to be understood. Let's say there are 4 needs of mine, and they're pretty core needs. It's like, that's what I want. I own it. I own that. So then I want my reality to match that. So if they're your needs, then if someone's not giving you those needs, then you can communicate that to them, and you can sense that with them. But if you don't know your own needs, and sometimes you just don't know what your person could be crossing your boundaries, and you just don't know. So what I'm trying to say in all this is that there's a process to actually manifesting your true desire in the world. There's a process to manifesting your true frequency in the world. So I'm just explaining a process to that. There's way more aspects to this, but the idea is that you can communicate your soul purpose to other people without losing that and then going into their ideas. Because if I ask questions like, what do you light you up? You can recognize that, and then you're asking me what lights me up. I can recognize that. Now we can consciously relate, because you are focusing on what lights you up, and I'm doing the same with me. Versus if I start to say, you need to do this, Ken, and you need to do that, then you're like, yeah, or you need to do this, Myles. Then we're not consciously relating, you're just projecting our own ideas onto each other. So I feel like to really just simplify this, the real simple way is that to stay in alignment is to consciously relate at the simplest level. So if humans are standing beside each other and are all in alignment, then it's very easy to relate consciously, and very easy to plant each other's purpose and in the world when that's what your focus is. But the hard part is when people are trying to pull you out of your frequency and pull you out of what you love to do and starting to distract you and telling you to focus on other things. That's harder. And so that's what the journey is. It's about being able to communicate in such a way that we bring because what am I here to communicate? I'm here to communicate my purpose. That's what I'm here to communicate. I'm not here to communicate anything else. No need for small talk. Communicate what matters to me. Me meaning like soul. And then I'm having meaningful relationships. Then I'm having meaningful conversations. And because of that, I can then consciously commune, which is I can actually start to participate. I can go around the world and be myself. And as you say many times, be you. Like, I can be myself now. I have the tools, I have the method, and now I can be me. And what a dream that is, you know?
It's an absolute dream. And my biggest fear around this is about if I be me and then people don't like me, or if I be me and my parents tell me that's wrong, or if I go to my parents and say, hey, I really want to do this thing, and they say, well, there's no money in that, you need to do this thing, you'll never. And so what has been very refreshing for me actually was the more I start to speak the truth, honestly, the more people actually react to that positively. Because speaking the truth does not mean, hey, you make me feel a certain way. It means actually looking into the core of yourself and looking at the core wounds that these things are bringing up and being really, really honest about those as well. And so rather than saying, hey, parent, whenever you tell me what to do, blah, 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 it really sort of annoys me. It really pisses me off. You just need to leave me alone now. It's actually saying, do you know what? For a long time when I was growing up, I felt really insecure about myself in the world, and I didn't have a lot of confidence. And so when I hear you say things questioning what I'm trying to do here, it actually brings those wounds back up again for me. And it makes me feel like you don't think that I can handle this world. And that's hurtful to me, right? And so like you've got to own your own part in it and do the work on that own part to be able to then speak from that to yourself. And then the other person goes, wow, I actually really understand you now. I get it. Or you might then really seek to understand them and be like, well, why is this person actually coming across? You say, well, that person's actually just really afraid. Like, I'm their child and they're afraid that I'm not going to have the life that I deserve, or I'm going to be I'm not going to have the wealth. And like they've been programmed that you need to be materially secure to have a good life. And so they're afraid that if I do this, I'm risking that. And everything in them is screaming, don't let them do that. You're responsible for this little human. And so it's actually coming from a place of love, even though it's coming across to me as controlling. And so as you start to mine deeper and deeper and deeper into the traumas and the fixed conditioning that's actually giving rise to these behaviors, you can understand. And when you can understand all, you can forgive all. And you said something to me before, Miles, which was beautiful, was you're actually not pissed off with that person. You just don't understand them. And they don't understand you. And how can they ever understand you if you're not actually speaking what's true and you're not being honest about your part in it? And how can you ever understand them if you don't really seek to do it? And I think that is where we break down when it comes. We don't give ourselves the option to even do conscious relating because we're actually not conscious of the deeper parts of ourselves that are at play. So we can't consciously relate. Never mind the purpose. We're not conscious of the wounds either. And that mix leaves us to have subpar communication, and we blame other people and we don't want to look at ourselves. And so we end up in this mess where we actually, a lot of families are like this, can't actually have a real conversation, or friendships can't actually have a real conversation. And we end up having chit chat, that's surface level, and we don't actually get, and I think that's a real shame. And so I'd be interested to hear on how you help people to relate in situations where it's difficult like that and speak their truth, even when it's hard, and what that process is like.
So even the steps before that we were talking about, 1, 2, 3, they set phase 1, 2, 3. They set the framework for phase 4 to actually play out. So to start off with phase 4 from scratch, like didn't even do first 3 phases, it'd be way more difficult to learn how to relate consciously. And I'll give an example. If you don't know who you are, if you don't know what you're here to do, what lights you up, then it's hard to know what you're here to communicate. And because you don't know what to communicate, then how are you going to consciously relate? Because you don't know where your center is, how are you going to get back? How are you going to have boundaries? This is the problem with a lot of people who are trying to do this work, is that they don't really know who they are. They don't know what they're here to do. They don't know what lights them up. They don't know their needs. They don't know these basic things, these fundamental things. So how difficult is it going to be like to communicate properly? Because in a way, conscious relating is a lot to do with conscious communication. How are you going to consciously communicate if you're not conscious in the first place? So it's kind of hard hitting, but
oh no, it is. Let it out, because it's important to hear. Because if you don't hear the truth, then what hope do you have of ever aligning yourself with it?
Yeah, and compassionate side of you, like, which is a lot, like this whole work is founded on really just the emotional element of life, and the whole idea of trauma and like emotional processing and entanglements with people. Like, so I want to speak to that aspect now, and I really want to speak to the feminine aspect of this all, which is that what we've been sharing, it's the high view, it's the masculine view, it's the top-down view, which is important to set the scene, set the structure. But now that we're in this scene, conscious relating is really getting down to the embodiment of it, the physical day-to-day things, which is we're in relationships with people. And the reality is that there's emotions come up, there'll be all sorts of triggers come up, there'll be a lot of emotional states will enter we're not really like and enjoy. So all this stuff will start happening. We're in the jungle now. We're in the Amazon. We're in the Amazon of life. We're right in the middle of it. We're in the thick of it. We're in relationships where we have children, we have parents, we're right in it now. And now the journey is, can you align in this place? Like, if you think you're enlightened, if you think you're in the light, go spend a day with your parents. It's a famous quote, it's like, yeah, stay in alignment around your mother and father, around your brother and sister, this is the real test. And I do have compassion. Like, it's like, I'm very grateful that all this work started from there, because actually if you start from the jungle, it's like you're a tough cookie, you you really know. And when it comes to relating with people, the whole work of the constellations is so powerful, because the work with inner constellations is very fundamental to how I teach how to consciously relate, which is that when you're triggered by someone, you can go into an internal dialogue with them, and you can start to experience what they're feeling. You can start to empathize with them. And when you start to understand what they're feeling, a lot of times you can actually liberate your own irritation. So often we get entangled with people because we have something to understand. That's why they're drawn into our field a lot of the time. So when I go into, for example, my father, obviously I've chosen, he's my father, and that's my mother. So obviously there's something to learn. It's not meaningless, it's not random. So then I go, all right, I'm getting irritated by my father. And I go into what am I to learn here? And then oftentimes I recognize, first of all, what I'm feeling. Oh, I'm feeling annoyed. Then I'll go into why am I feeling annoyed? I feel I'm not listened to, and I'm just being disregarded. And then maybe, okay, now I'll go into his feeling. What's he feeling? And I start to feel he starts to feel irritated by something else in his life. He starts to feel like he was just totally dismissed when he was a child. He was totally dismissed by his father. And that's his experience. And I'm starting to feel, wow. And then I'm going up into his father and I'm experiencing what he's feeling. And then immediately I'm realizing, well, I'm just feeling what they're feeling. I'm re-experiencing their realities. And then I'm starting to express that hurts for them. And then all of a sudden I'm liberating it for myself. I'm starting to no longer dismiss my own feelings, no longer dismiss my own experience. And I'm like, wow, I'm recognizing that it's important to honor my needs. And this is what I'm doing for my grandfather. And then naturally, as a consequence, I start to do that for myself. And then all of a sudden, I look at my father again, I understand him. Because I understand him, I forgive him. And I no longer get irritated by him because I've learned the lesson. And then all of a sudden on the external, there may be nothing to say to my father because it's not needed. And that's a very efficient way to consciously relate.
That for me has been such a game changer, because traditionally we think that we have to wade through these massive, heavy conversations with people in order to ever come to a resolution. And you may have to have a conversation with somebody, but if you start to do the healing inside, it actually facilitates, if a conversation has to happen, that you don't have resistance to push back on. And so then the conversation actually within that space, it has a chance to heal. And I've actually experienced that the more I just focus on doing the healing myself, the more the relationships with my parents and people in my life start to flow with more ease. And the more they start to become successful in their development goals, which is a very weird experience, because it almost feels like energetically where I was blocking progress for everyone, and where they were was blocking progress for me. And so in being the one who shifts it, and I almost feel like our generation is sort of got this position in the world, because we are ones who've grown up and we're out of hardship enough that we have a little bit of space, but we're also in it enough that we understand it. And there's a lot of people who I speak to who are our age and our generation who see themselves as stopping the intergenerational trauma. They see themselves as like the end point to it. And so I think that there's a real role for us to play here. And as you say, the more we actually do that work ourselves, the more we facilitate that work happening in others. And actually, when you run directly into it, or you try and suggest to those people, particularly your family, that they should do the work, or your close friends or your close partner, the more you try to advise, the more you actually entrench it. And actually, the more you learn and understand about yourself and about them and forgive and let go, then the more it facilitates the flow of it for everyone else. And that has just been, it's almost like magic.
Yeah, it is. It is magic.
It is magic.
It's magic relative to where this world relates in. It's magic, it's phenomenal. It's wow. It is, because it's way more effective. It's a way more effective way to relate. So because first of all, it's internal, our experience of relating, and then it's external. And so that's why in the inner constellations, you're learning the energetics behind relationships. You're learning the emotional reality behind relationships. You're learning what's behind the things. And then you're starting to sort of let go of things that are entangled in that way. And then that's why the physical starts to change. That's why your way of relating with each other just completely changes. So sometimes you're called to speak externally. When you're speaking externally or acting around people, you're in an external constellation. The constellation's still going on, but it's more external. It's just more externalized. It's still the same thing happening, just more external. Sometimes we're called to do that. And obviously this is, for someone listening, there's so much like the method has this broken down. It's more simplified. We're speaking at a higher level here in a way, but I imagine people are understanding the overall idea here, and that the fact that we don't need to always have conversations on the outside and go through all this big talking and talking and talking. And then nothing's moving, no energy's moving on underneath. It's incredible. It's incredible. And the parents teach us at the best. They're the great teachers by just being existing. Not that they're saying it, but they're just teaching us like, this being has been with me my whole life and they don't want to listen to me at all. And then you have to realize, I have to listen to myself. And when you listen to yourself and you really give that to yourself, you realize, I'm going to listen to myself around my father, even if he doesn't listen to me. And all of a sudden I take my power back, because I realize all I'm responsible for is listening to myself around my father. And he can listen or not, but I can't control him. I can't change him. He has a choice. He has free will. And then it becomes less personal. And then I realize that that's his choice. That's his reality. And it's I go through the emotions of that. It's sad and everything. And overall, I realized that, well, I can accept it because I understand it now. I understand that he doesn't have to change for me to feel better. My mother doesn't have to change at all for me to feel better. That's the harsh reality. And the empowering reality is, then that's why it's ultimately about me. It's about my experience. And that's when it comes to then romantic relationship, then it's similar but also different in that it's a lot more choice involved as you're choosing, versus your parents, you've already chosen it, so you're kind of different. But your romantic partners, there's a lot of choice involved. So like, I'm choosing to be with this person. And then that context is that you can internally move a lot of things, internal constellations with a romantic partner. But there'll be a lot more external aspects to the relationship, because, well, not always, but if you're with a person that's expansive to you and that lights you up, that's aligned, then yes, it's beneficial to go more into external. Why? Because there's a trust there. There's already a bond built, and you can, speaking things to each other, you can get stuff resolved. Also, it's productive, things can actually shift and change quite well when you have an external constellation or romantic relationship, versus with your parents, you might realize that nothing's up against a brick wall and nothing's moving. So on a romantic relationship, yes, when you do internal constellations, you're changing all the time, the dynamic. But also the external, it's good to go, hey, I feel like something has changed in me, and you're communicating that, and another person's adapting, and you're helping them by communicating. You're working together. You're realigning, and both our views are aligning and changing and evolving, and you're communicating to each other your own process and experience of that. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see evolution happen in front of your eyes. And romantic relationship is almost like you're choosing this person to be that one that you can communicate through this journey of constantly moving and changing,
Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful thing. I've experienced that on my own, and just watching this person grow and become more them as well. And they trigger you along the way, you trigger them. But you're both watching and you're really wanting the other person to continue to grow, and you're supporting each other. You're supporting each other to do it. It's challenging at times, but it's beautiful, and there's a lovely blessing, I think, that I heard from someone who says something like, may you fall in love with every version of your partner. And as long as you keep falling in love with newer and newer versions, and it can be a really beautiful experience.
On the aspect of the feminine aspect, the conscious relating phase 4 and the conscious communion phase 5, they're a lot more down in the jungle of life now. And there's a lot more the feminine aspect comes into this. This is what's really interesting. These are two phases that are least being articulated by spiritual methods of the past. This is really not touched on, these things. Like really, really just like the feminine these are feminine aspects. I'll tell you why. It's like, because now we've set the order, now we've set the structure, we set the kind of rules in a certain way, the order of things. Now it becomes like we're in the thick of it. And in relationships, you see different parts of yourself. You see different parts of them. And you start to realize that the feminine way is to realize that you are all of these things. You're not denying it. You are sometimes angry, sometimes frustrated, sometimes sad. A relationship reflects this back to you, that you are shifting into different parts of you. Sometimes you're avoidant of things. Sometimes you're like super motivated and aligned and yes, go. And you're all these different characters in a circle. And if you can face all these parts of yourself and just see it as different aspects and realize that you're the one that can see it all, and you cannot avoid any of them, and you can kind of integrate them, claim them all as you, then then you can no longer be you're no longer avoidant of it. In a way, you're free. You're free from avoiding trying to be some of those things. So the feminine way is to embrace all as you. It's the mother, to embrace all parts of you and to realize sometimes I'm scared, sometimes I'm struggling, sometimes I don't know, sometimes I need to ask for help, sometimes I'm in pain and I'm in fear. This happens. We're in the human experience. We're here to experience all aspects of reality. And the feminine path is to love it like, without conditions. Love all parts of yourself. And now you're free. And this is really what conscious relating is about for me, is becoming love, like loving all parts. And if you start to love all parts of you, it's easier to love all parts of others as a natural consequence. If you can start to be compassionate towards all parts of yourself, because I just recorded a meditation yesterday on compassion 101. It was like the whole journey of seeing all sides of the feminine, seeing all sides of you, and having ultimate compassion and taking it all as you. Jesus Christ, the symbol of the one that takes himself as you, takes all parts as himself, sees no difference between the robber and the business person and the poor person, and sees it all as him. And that's why he doesn't judge any of these beings, because it's all him. And so this is the way to a compassionate world. It's true taking yourself to see yourself that way. And now you can become one with all things. It's like when you can see yourself in all beings, now you're free. It's like oneness, living in oneness is the highest expression of this journey, is you're just one with all things. And I would articulate and I define this as a soul-aligned world. It's a world in which it's a world in which people know who they are and why they're here, and they're living it. It's a world in which people know how to connect with the light and live it. It's a world in which people know how to align with the soul, realize why they're here, and then act on it and express it into the world. They're basically a world in which each person is aligned. And so an aligned world, a soul-aligned world, is a very light, high vibrational, ideal heaven type world. And it's the highest vision is to live in a soul aligned world. And so to orient myself towards a soul aligned world, that's the goal. Because at what level can we bring a soul aligned world down into the earth? The reality is we don't know what's possible. We're gonna go for it all out. It's like we don't know, but let's see what's possible. Because it's always it's important to have an ideal. It's important to have the highest vision, and then when you try to maximize that vision in the world, it'll do beautiful things. And so I believe that each human can align. Each human can get access to the space of who they are right now in this moment. They can get access to their light right now, and they can each know why they're here. Why they're here. Not everyone can live it to the same level and depth, but each person can access who they are, and because that's possible, that's so beautiful to remember. And for me, it's like I'm motivated to bring as many people into that experience as possible, because and to have facilitators doing this is like such a vision of mine, because the more people that go around and guide people into a space of who they are and show them why they're here, it's like that's the greatest gift you can give someone. It's like the greatest gift is for them to live their dream. And that's my wish in a simple way. Like my wish is like, I wish for you to experience the dream. I wish for you to experience who you are and why you're here. I wish for you to experience that, because I'm living in bliss. I'm living in such levels of joy and lightness, and I see the orchestration of things moment to moment and day to day, and I'm like, it's a phenomenal experience to have this on a regular basis, and I wish this for all beings. I wish freedom for all beings. I wish like love, unconditional love for all beings. Like I experience it more and more and more and more and more in this life, and I'm like, that's what I wish for the world: love, peace, but like experiencing of it, not just like the idea of it. I really, it's no longer like, oh, just experience love and peace and it's a concept. No. There's a way. There's a method for this. It's possible. It's here. It's not just I'm just talking about theory. I'm not here. I didn't incarnate this time to talk about theory. I literally am talking about something that has steps, that has a process. There's an actual framework. There's a specific way to do this. It's not just an idea anymore. You can have your purpose broken down in detail. You can live your purpose in absolute nuanced fashion. You can embody it to the max, to the core. This is not some idea. This is actually, there is a way, there is a broken down process for this. And that's the difference in what's happening here and what we're sharing. It's like, I feel it's like this is a different level, this is a different paradigm now. We're on a different level of consciousness on the earth. We've got information, we've got a method right now that, and there's probably other methods in a similar way in across the reality right now. But the reason why this type of method is here is because now we're ready to no longer talk about purpose as some idea. Oh, we can find our purpose. No, that's not good enough anymore. We can actually realize our purpose in detail, and we can actually live it and act on it day to day, moment to moment. We can break it down. We can measure the progress in it. I say to people, you want to live your purpose? Okay. What level do you want to go? Because I can go to levels. I can go to any level you want to go. And it's like, many people are shocked by, they don't even know the levels. It's like they think one thing's their dream. And I'm like, it can be 10 times bigger than that. It can be 10 times deeper than that. It can be beyond what your mind can even understand. Because the dream really is, it's way more enjoyable than what your mind can even comprehend right now. That's just my experience. It's like, it's way better than what your mind's trying to. Your mind is so diluting what it actually is.
As someone who has been on that spiritual journey for, it's hard to track it back to points in life, but for the last 10 years in particular, searching, looking, reading different things, practicing, healing psychologically. The 9 months that I have been working with you on this and the clarity that you brought to it, the acceleration in and the bringing together all of the different parts of that this method has brought to me has been life-changing is too small a word for it. And I am completely, like, it moves me to tears, the vision of what the world can be and where it can go in a soul aligned world, and having experienced more and more higher states and also starting to let go of lower states. It's incredible what is just here right now whenever you let go of all of the nonsense and learn how to do that. And I am 100% here to do this work with you, to share it with as many people as possible, to do the work on myself, and I feel like the world itself is waking up to this. Everywhere I see, everywhere I look, there are people are talking about this. Younger people are interested in anyone I share this with. They resonate with it and they're ready to do it. And so, like, let's go is all I could say. I mean, and the expansiveness of that. I had a conversation with someone yesterday and I left the conversation and I was absolutely humming just talking about it. Right. And so being in this space with you has been incredible. And this podcast and having the experience to have this conversation with you and articulate this all so cleanly has been immense. And so we're near the end of nearly a 4-hour marathon. And so I want to know, like, is there anything you'd like to say to sum it up? You beautifully put it there, but anything else you'd like to say or share at this point?
I want to share that there's awareness in me that notices how, like, this information just flows from, like, down through me, you know, like from something higher down through my body and into this microphone. And I'm so focused on this space above me that I'm just kind of, the information and this kind of information just flows. It's just like, it's just super fast. So I can understand a lot of things very quickly when I'm in that kind of state. And this soul alignment method, like, it really comes from my soul. It's like it's channeled down through my soul. And what I find really interesting as a human, just like I'm a human also, you know, and it's like I'm noticing, like, wow, like I just channel all this stuff and, like, wow, it's kind of incredible. And what I'm realizing, and I've realized, is like I'm just getting out of the way and I'm letting what's truly aligned for me come down. And it's like such a beautiful way to communicate. And I really wish this for all people, is like communicate, just like go into a state of alignment and then just communicate, like see what comes down, because it's not personal, you know. It's not like Myles owns this information. I don't own it at all. I'm actually getting out of the way, really trying not to do it from memory. I'm trying to just do from what is aligned now. Why I'm sharing that is because I'm very blessed as a person. I'm very, very grateful for this reality, very grateful for the situation I'm in, very grateful for this information, very grateful to talk about this with you. Like, it's amazing because I just feel so happy to be given an opportunity to be in this situation. Like to be talking about soul and purpose and alignment. I'm like, wow, it's like so amazing. Like, I love this topic. Like, as a human, I'm just like, wow, I love the information you're giving me. Is like, wow, it's really nice. Really, I enjoy it. Like, keep going. It's like, and I just, like, as a person, like, I'm on many levels, but on a person, it's just, it's like, wow, I know how powerful this experience is, and like, I know so many people get glimpses of this, and I just want more people to experience it. More people to experience what it's like to be in alignment, because it's so different. Life is so different in alignment. It's so much lighter, so much more effortless. It's like things just really do flow. And this paradigm of like owning stuff, I own this and own that, I thought all that stuff's gone now. It's like, I don't own it all. I don't own anything. I'll just say to you, I own nothing. I am so free because of that. So you tell me I own all this stuff. Like, no, it's like actually the opposite. You're like, oh, Myles, you're really attached for this happening and that happening. I'm actually not at all. I'm actually the opposite. I'm actually just, I have a vision, and I have a soul. My soul has a vision, and I just enjoy it and feel it and enjoy it, and just by the enjoyment of it is coming into reality. And then by me enjoying what my soul wants to do, I'm emitting that to you, and then it's helping inspire you into, for you to see your soul's vision and to enjoy your soul's vision. Because my greatest wish is for you to enjoy yourself. So that's the beautiful thing. It's like alignment is like you enjoying yourself, you enjoying your dream. So it's not, I do see alignment as a universal dream. I see a soul line world as a universal dream, not my dream necessarily, because it's like, because you being in alignment with your true self is your dream. Actually, it's not about Myles. It's actually you being in alignment is actually your dream. So I just want to distinguish that now, because I feel, imagine a world where you could go around and you could inspire everyone to be themselves, to listen to themselves, to discern what their soul wants to say and live it. That's the greatest motivation for me. I vicariously, like my life right now is like I vicariously get a lot of my joy. I get a lot of my joy vicariously, meaning when you get into alignment, that's my joy. That's my motivation. It's like I re-experience it again. I go, oh, amazing. And then I'm like, oh, another person, wow, it's amazing. It's like, that's my joy. It actually comes there. It comes from like other people experiencing it. And it's kind of interesting. I think that's what it looks like when you're really in alignment. You just love other people making breakthroughs. You love other people getting into their purpose. That's your joy. That's what you're motivated by. That's actually, and that's the idea of you're being the father or the mother now. You're being the parent for the world. You're being the mentor. You're now mentoring people to align, because it's a natural consequence. You want to be a parent of soul alignment because you realize how impactful it is. It's like a kind of a natural consequence. And that's the idea of, like, for me, the children, like the motivation of the children. It's like, I imagine a future where the children are learning this from a young age. Learning how to listen, learn how to align, learn how to do fundamentals of these things from a young age. By the time they're teenagers, they know why they're here. And then they're living it by the time they're teenagers. I want the future to be far more advanced than I am. I want the future to be far more advanced than where I'm at now. That's the goal. So for me as the goal is like, I hope I look like a little beginner compared to the people of the future.
Oh, let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. Is there anything to leave people with here just at the end? Because we've talked about alignment, we've talked about different types of meditation. Is there a meditation that you would like to leave here? Just a very short one that would give people a chance of tasting what alignment is like, and would you be up to sharing something like that to finish us?
Yeah, okay. I can do it, yeah. Getting in a comfortable position, closing the eyes, and begin by focusing on the breath. Inhale, exhale. Listening to the sound of the breath as you inhale and exhale. Bring awareness to the sensations in the body. Observing them. Bring an awareness to the bottom of the spine. Slowly bring an awareness up the spine. Bring awareness to the top of the head. Just noticing now, imagining the space above your head. Imagining going 1 meters, 2 meters. Going higher and higher up into this space. Going up into the light. Imagining this bright light. Focusing on it. Focus. As you focus on the light, you start to become the light. Noticing as you focus on the light, your body can start to relax. Allowing the light to come down into the body. Imagining a straight line going from the light down into the body. And focus up into the light. Going further and further up into the light. So noticing the body, noticing any thoughts, any ideas, acknowledging that. And then noticing the space above that. Notice the space above your body. And go up into that space. There's a space that exists beyond these thoughts. Beyond this body. So noticing any thoughts you have. Because you can observe them. Because you can observe these ideas. You're something far more. Because you can observe the body, you're something far more. You're this awareness. Going up above the head. Focusing on this space. Focus up into the light. Letting go of all ideas. Focus on the light. Notice how light it feels. You're returning home. The light is who you are. rest in the light. I am the light. I am the light beyond all of this. The body can come and go. The mind can come and go. But the light, always here. Anchor in the light. Anchor in the real you. Notice this is the light of your soul. You are now in the soul alignment state. From this state, all aligns. Thoughts align, feelings align, the body aligns. Focus on alignment, and all will align. This is the power of the light. So who you are is this powerful. Now you're in alignment with who you really are. So this is an introduction to the soul alignment state. So your attention can go and return back to this space as often as you can. This is the essence of this work. This is the essence of this path, is return to who you are, moment to moment. The soul alignment state, that's the highest priority. This is your North Star, your orientation. Anytime you feel drained, come back to here. Anytime you feel lost, return to this state. Come home. Recharge. Let it all go. Let all else go. Let it all go for the light. Affirm, I am the light. So from alignment, from this state, you can actually move your body and stay in alignment. You don't lose alignment by moving. You can move and stay in alignment. You can breathe and stay in alignment. You can actually open the eyes and stay in alignment. So whenever we're ready, we're going to open the eyes.
Thank you. What a gift, brother. It's a pleasure to be an apprentice on this path, to be a friend, to be a brother on this journey. And the work you've done with me so far in the last 9 months has been incredible. The fact that we lived not an hour from each other, the fact that we went to university together and didn't really know each other and then have reconnected and later on in life is just in a very interesting way is just incredible. And I feel I feel very lucky and very grateful to have reconnected and to be able to do this work with you and hopefully share it to the world in whatever way I can.
Thank you, Cian. I support you all the way, and I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful that you're feeling so happy and just being yourself and living your dream, and you're on a journey to live what you really want to do. That's what makes me most happy. Like, is that you're being yourself. Like, that's the most important thing. Follow your truth, follow your soul all the way, and I know that you'll enjoy it if you do that.
And if there are other people who are listening to this and they like the sound of that, where's the best place for them to get in contact with you?
So I have an email, milesofmagic@gmail.com, or I also have an Instagram, milesofmagic. And then I have a website, thesoulalignmentmethod.com. So you choose what way you want to contact me. And whenever someone contacts me, I just like them to share your intention, like what do you want to experience, share what you're driven by, what you're motivated by. And then from that, then I'll know what to do next. So yeah, that's it.
And I'll share all of those things in the show notes so we have the links and everything. But brother, thank you so much. Here's to many more conversations and many more collaborations over the years. You're a true legend.
Thank you. We're only beginning.